Chapter 25-22. Among the crowd, there was a 25 to 26-year-old young man dressed in a green robe. His every action was noble and elegant. When he appeared, the hubbub around them gradually quietened down. The young man walked slowly towards the direction of Yiqing Luo and the rest. The corners of his calm and handsome face curled up into a smile, but his brows were slightly furrowed. Young sect master. Housekeeper Yin greeted respectfully when he saw the person approaching. The surrounding people, those with lower status, also bowed. Those with higher status cupped their hands in greeting. The young man was the young sect master of Qinyu sect, Yin Yanxiu. Brother Xiu. Xia Lingling's eyes lit up when she saw Yin Yanxiu, and she immediately went up to him coquettishly. Brother Xiu, are you here to fetch Lingling? Before Yin Yanxiu could say a word, Xia Lingling had already continued on her own. Brother Xiu, if you don't come, Lingling will be bullied to death. That lowly commoner doesn't even put me, the princess, in her eyes. She doesn't even put the Qinyu clan in her eyes. Xia Lingling's eyeballs turned extremely quickly as her eyes were filled with craftiness. Before she could get close to Yin Yanxiu had already avoided Xia Lingling's touch. He lowered his eyes slightly as his gaze swept past Xia Lingling calmly. Following that, he raised his eyes and fixed his gaze on the calm and composed Yiqing Luo. Xia Lingling didn't mind Yin Yanxiu's actions. She and Yin Yanxiu really didn't have much interaction. After all, Yin Yanxiu was a 25-year-old young man, and Xia Lingling was just a 13-year-old young lady. How would they have any interaction usually? But Xia Lingling intentionally put on this attitude, just to convey to everyone that her relationship with the royal family and Qinyu sect was good. Moreover, she took the initiative to please Yin Yanxiu, and on account of the royal family's face, Yin Yanxiu would not reject her. She had already explained everything clearly to Yin Yanxiu. Yin Yanxiu was an intelligent man, so he would definitely understand her meaning. Thinking of this, Xia Lingling's pampered little face was filled with a complacent expression. The moment Lan Ling Nua saw Yin Yanxiu, her heart started to palpitate. Although her ultimate target was South Continent's young sect master, Gu Jingyu. But Yin Yanxiu was Qinyu sect's young sect master. If she could make Yin Yanxiu a subject under her skirt, it would not work on Gu Jingyu's side. At the very least, she could become the wife of the Northern Wave Continent's sect master. Furthermore, Lan Ling Nua could tell. Yin Yanxiu didn't really like Xia Lingling. Xia Lingling was so immersed in her own happiness that she didn't notice. She had seen it clearly. Yin Yanxiu's frown deepened. So, Yin Yanxiu didn't come here and speak up for them because of Xia Lingling. It was because of her identity as the East Wave County Lord that she had rushed over. She was the incomparably noble Eastern Lan County Lord. Everyone had to give face to Dong Lan. Yin Yanxiu definitely wanted to establish a good relationship with the royal family of the East Billow region. Lan Ling Nua had always been confident about her looks. She was also certain that she could use her looks to make Yin Yanxiu fall in love with her. Hence, she adjusted her most gentle and magnanimous smile and gracefully walked to Xia Lingling's side, hooking her arm. Lingling, don't be angry. Young sect master Yin is here to stand up for you. Don't get angry over those Tom, Dick, and Harry. Immediately, she looked at Yin Yanxiu with tender affection. However, she realized that Yin Yanxiu didn't even look at her. Chapter 25-23. Lan Ling Nua's expression froze. She clenched her fists tightly and put on a gentle smile as she slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Yin Yanxiu's gaze fell on Yiqing Luo. She then walked into Yin Yanxiu's line of sight. Lan Ling Nua walked in an enchanting manner. She was extremely charming. Very quickly, she stopped in front of Yiqing Luo and gave her a contemptuous glance. See that, this is the young matriarch of Qinyu sect. Just based on your lowly status, to be able to meet the young matriarch of Qinyu sect, it's all because of me. Saying that, she changed into a smiling look as she looked at Yin Yanxiu. Young matriarch, don't bother with these lowly people, it's a disgrace to your Qinyu sect status. Lan Ling Nua's tone was filled with complacency, not knowing what she was proud of. Hearing Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua echoing each other's words, Yiqing couldn't hold it in any longer as he laughed out loud. Had these two ladies' brains been kicked by a donkey? Were they too arrogant towards their own status? Or were they brain-damaged and blind, totally unable to read Yin Yanxiu's expression? Lan Ling Nua frowned slightly. Why did Yi Luo's laughter seem to contain a hint of ridicule? To be able to meet the young matriarch of Qinyu sect. This was already the fortune she had cultivated in her past life. She actually put on a scornful expression? Ever since the incident at the Peach Blossom restaurant, Lan Ling Nua had specially inquired about this red-robed young lady's news. Yi Luo and the lady she hated, not only were they dressed the same, even their names were different by one word. But Yi Luo's identity was just an ordinary academy student, who had obtained the academy's permission to travel to the North Continent. An ordinary student. Sitting in such an ordinary horse carriage. Other than a horse groom, he didn't even have a follower. No matter how she looked at it, Yi Luo was just a powerless and nameless nobody. Compared to a pampered princess like her, it was like heaven and earth. Lan Ling Nua totally didn't put Yi Luo in her eyes. Brother Xiao, didn't housekeeper Yin mentioned earlier that Uncle Sect Master is concerned about me and Sister Nua? Come on, let's go to Uncle Sect Leader's place. Just leave these lowly commoners to the servants to handle. Xia Lingling saw that Yin Yanxiu didn't say anything and was getting a little impatient. I can't stand staying in the same place with this kind of person for so long. That's true. The clear male voice was extremely deep. Lan Ling Nua and Xia Lingling were stunned. Soon after, his face lit up with joy. Brother Xiao, young sect master. You think so too, right? Yin Yanxiu, who had been silent all this while, faintly flashed a cold light in his eyes. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes. This person, he was a ruthless person. He was definitely not as noble and refined as he appeared on the surface. However, from the looks of it, this person could not be considered an enemy. He was also a smart man. Lan Ling Nua and Xia Lingling couldn't wait to see the scene of Yi Luo and the others being chased out by the young sect master of the Qinghua sect. Who asked that slut to be arrogant and despotic? How dare that slut embarrass them in public? Now let's see who's the one who's embarrassed. Immediately the two princesses looked at Housekeeper Yin. Housekeeper Yin, did you hear that? Your young sect master has already spoken. Why aren't you taking action? Housekeeper Yin didn't reply, only looking at Yin Yanxiu. On seeing Yin Yanxiu nodding his head slightly, he then got someone to bring over 10 patrolling guards. Looking at those 10 overguards' aggressive looks, Lan Ling Nua's mood was delighted. This is the consequence of not knowing your own limits. Chapter 25-24. But the smiles on their faces didn't last for long. Only to see 10 overguards walking up to them, one on the left and one on the right, lifting the both of them up. Hey. You've caught the wrong person. Let go of me. How dare you? Lan Ling Nua was lifted up by the two guards and her feet couldn't touch the ground as she frantically scolded them. Xia Lingling was so infuriated that her face turned red. You dare to lay a hand on me? Do you believe that I will ask Uncle Monarch to chop off your heads? Let go of me. But no matter how they shouted and scolded, they were firmly held down by the guards, unable to move at all. The both of them were shouting and scolding, but Yin Yanxiu's expression remained calm as he didn't say a word. Because of Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua's status. It was such a clamor at the main entrance. Adding on to the fact that Yin Yanxiu was here. The guests who were crowding around to watch the show were almost packed. There were quite a number of guests who had been queuing up at the entrance, watching the show from the start till the end. Seeing Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua being held up by the guards without any energy to retaliate, they started laughing. When one person laughed, 100 people laughed at the same time. Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua were both annoyed and ashamed when they heard the laughter. Xia Lingling felt so wrong that her tears started to fall. Lan Ling Nua was still considered to have some rationality as she bit her lower lip tightly as she stared hatefully at Yi Qing Luo. Following that, she pitifully softened her voice as she sobbed softly, Young sect matriarch, your subordinates have captured the wrong people. Tell them to let me and Ling Ling off, alright? Yin Yanxiu's brows raised slightly as he looked at her. Lan Ling Nua was delighted as she tried her best to act pitiful. I'm in so much pain from their grabbing. Young sect master asked them to let me off. Ling Ling and I will absolutely not haggle over them capturing us wrongly. You didn't capture the wrong person. A calm voice interrupted Lan Ling Nua's words. Lan Ling Nua was stunned as though she couldn't react in time. She saw Yin Yanxiu looking at her fixedly with obvious disgust in his eyes. East Lan Region Lord and Little Region Lord don't feel that this Qinghua sect is disgusting, feeling that it affects your mood and feeling that you can't take it any longer? If that's the case, this young sect master will grant your wish and send you away from the Qinghua sect, lest you offend the two of them. Lan Ling Nua's face flushed red from Yin Yanxiu's words. These words were indeed said by her to Xia Lingling. Everyone present heard it. They couldn't deny it. At this moment, no matter how stupid Lan Ling Nua was, she understood, Yin Yanxiu wasn't there to help her and Xia Lingling. Instead he was here to help that slut Yi Luo. A slut will always be a slut. She actually hooked up with young sect master. Yin Yanxiu took in the sinister look on Lan Ling Nua's face and frowned slightly. He didn't feel any pity for this idiot princess who only knew how to cause trouble and bully others with her power. He glanced sideways and looked at Yiqing Luo. "Dear guest, sorry to have disturbed your mood. Today's unhappiness at Qinyu clan will definitely compensate you in the future." Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up as she politely nodded her head. "Many thanks to young sect master for helping us out of this predicament." Yin Yanxiu's gaze was burning as he stared at Yiqing Luo's face, and after some time his smile deepened. "We should be the ones apologizing for delaying everyone's time. I'll bring you to the main hall to take your seats. Then we'll have to trouble young sect master." Yiqing Luo didn't reject Yin Yanxiu's kind intentions. After all, young sect master would personally send them to the main hall. There would definitely not be anyone who would find trouble with them on the way. They weren't afraid of trouble. But this was Qinyu sect's patriarch's birthday banquet. Chapter 25. When the crowd saw Yin Yanxiu's courteous look towards Yiqing Luo and the rest, they couldn't help but started to guess their identities. Especially the young miss who had ridiculed Yiqing Luo and the rest in order to please the two princesses earlier. Her face turned pale as she scolded the two princesses harshly in her heart. She also pushed this debt onto the two princesses. It was all their fault for not recognizing Mount Tai. They actually treated young sect master's distinguished guests as people from small forces, causing them to humiliate the distinguished guests. Those who were able to enter Qinyu clan today, even the lowest status, was a small force which had a place in the pugilistic world. Among the crowd there were naturally many distinguished people. Not knowing if Yin Yanxiu did it on purpose. Those few guards who were holding Lan Ling Nua and Xia Lingling stood rooted on the spot and didn't leave. They allowed the onlookers to point at them and snicker at them. Apparently they wanted everyone to see Lan Ling Nua and Xia Lingling's embarrassing looks. Especially when there were many distinguished guests who had just entered Qinyu clan's residence, they couldn't help but ask about the reason when they saw this scene. 1 to 10, 10 to 100. The originally bustling Qinyu clan became even more lively. Even if there were people from the East Continent when they walked past. They intentionally pretended that they didn't know the princess who was held up by the guards and had lost all her face. Since when had Lan Ling Nua and Xia Lingling suffered such humiliation? They had always been envied by the crowd. He had always stood in the crowd and laughed at others from high above. But now, this bunch of lowly people actually dared to stand by the side and laugh at them? This bunch of lowly people, how could they be compared to Uncle Monarch? They didn't save them, didn't plead for them, and even laughed at them. Lan Ling Nua's arrogant and conceited heart had suffered a serious blow. Everything was because of that slut Yi Luo. Secretly seducing the young sect master of Qinyu clan and even pretended that she didn't know Yin Yanxiu. Was he intentionally making fun of her? What a Qinyu clan. What a Yi Luo. When she returned to the East Continent, she would make Qinyu clan fall completely. What four great sects? Did they really think they were something? Seeing Yin Yanxiu gently and elegantly accompanying Yiqing Luo towards that ordinary-looking carriage, as though he was talking to the person in the carriage. Immediately after, Yin Yanxiu personally pulled the reins of the carriage with a face full of smiles. One had to know, after entering the Joy clan residence, regardless of whether it was a carriage or a sedan, it had to be carried to a special place for carriages and sedan. No matter who it was, they were not allowed to use carriages in the Qinyu sect. But unexpectedly, the young sect master of the Qinyu sect actually took the initiative to lead the way for the person in the carriage. Who was the person in the carriage? How could he have such a great reputation? The honored guests recalled how Lan Ling Nua and Xia Lingling called them lowly commoners and said the people in the carriage were lowly commoners with no status or status. Just by looking at Yin Yanxiu's attitude, it could be understood. The person in the carriage was not someone an ordinary person could afford to offend. He wondered if the two princesses' faces hurt. He felt the mocking and disdainful gazes coming from all directions. All of them seemed to be laughing at them for overestimating themselves. Lan Ling Nua was so infuriated that her entire body was trembling. She wanted to struggle, but she couldn't break free from the restraints of the guards. Chapter 25-26. Following Lan Ling Nua's call, the surrounding guests automatically made way for them. Immediately, a group of about 15 people were trying to sneak away from this conspicuous place. But unfortunately, Lan Ling Nua's call. Even if they wanted to sneak away, it was impossible. Prime Minister's son, stop hiding. I know it's you. Hurry up and come over here to save me. Lan Ling Nua shrieked angrily when she saw that group of people still cowering in fear. This Prime Minister's son wasn't anyone else. He was the East Water Continent's Prime Minister's son who they met when they went to the Treasure Pavilion's auction to retrieve the Sky Yuan serene grass. When Prime Minister's son heard Lan Ling Nua's voice, he was so angry that his body trembled. He tensed his body, not wanting to bother about Lan Ling Nua at all. One must know that Qinghua sect's sovereign's birthday banquet should be attended by him as the Prime Minister. But Lan Ling Nua insisted on joining in the fun. The monarch favored Lan Ling Nua, and he also had the idea of having Lan Ling Nua serve as the representative of the East Water Continent's imperial family to consolidate their power. Prime Minister's son almost went bankrupt when he bid for the Sky Yuan serene grass and was beaten back to the third stage by Yi Qingluo. Today his Prime Minister position was in jeopardy. He had racked his brains to stabilize his position as Prime Minister. He also wanted to befriend Qinghua sect's sovereign. After the monarch announced Lan Ling Nua as the East Water Continent's royal family's representative, he used his son family's identity to come to the North Water Continent. He didn't expect their East Water Continent's princess had created such a huge mess. It wasn't something that his son family could handle. But Lan Ling Nua actually stopped him in front of everyone to help Lan Ling Nua, which would definitely offend Qinghua sect. After all, Lan Ling Nua's current situation was obviously done intentionally by Qinghua sect's young matriarch. Not helping. It would only make the East Water Continent's royal family a laughing stock. The East Water Continent's royal family would become the laughing stock of the Nirvana realm. Prime Minister's son. The young sect master of the Great Elation sect actually dared to treat me in such a manner. For the sake of a lowly person, you don't even put the East Wave Imperial clan in your eyes. Do you still want to sit back and watch? Don't tell me, you want to see our East Wave Imperial family being trampled on by anyone? When Lan Ling Nua saw that Prime Minister's son still hadn't come over, she angrily roared again. Her eyes were bloodshot and filled with rage. Prime Minister's son broke out in a cold sweat. Previously he was still hesitating whether he should come forward to plead for Lan Ling Nua. As soon as Lan Ling Nua said this, he didn't need to hesitate at all. Princess, as the representative of the East Wave Imperial family, you should show the demeanor of the East Wave continent when you attend the birthday banquet of the sect leader of the Qinghua sect. How can you make such a ruckus in the Elation sect? Prime Minister's son frowned and rebuked her with a look of exasperation. Your Highness, before we set off, I have taught you many times about etiquette. You are a disgrace to the royal family. Lan Ling Nua was mocked and ridiculed by the people around her. At this moment, even the Prime Minister of the imperial family dared to point at her nose and criticize her? How could Lan Ling Nua accept this? How dare you? Do you think that I'm someone who you can criticize? Prime Minister's son, if you don't ask these people to let me go, I will ask my cousin, the Emperor, to remove your position as Prime Minister when I return to the East Wave continent. Chapter 25-27. Lan Ling Nua was so angry that her eyes turned red. She struggled to grab Prime Minister Sunday. However, the guards held her tightly. She gritted her teeth and shouted, "Let go of me! Let go of me right now!" Prime Minister Sun's eyes were cold. He wanted to turn around and leave. He did not want to have anything to do with this disgraceful princess. However, in the next moment he saw that Yin Yanxiu, who was walking in front of him, had stopped and was looking at him. Prime Minister Sun's heart tightened. The reason why he came to the North Wave continent to attend the faction leader's birthday banquet was to build a good relationship with the Qinghua faction. Now he finally had the chance to talk to the young faction leader of the Qinghua faction. He could not miss this opportunity no matter what. Prime Minister's son suddenly turned around and walked toward Yin Yanxiu. Young faction leader, do you want to plead for the princess of the East Wave continent? Yin Yanxiu rarely spoke directly. The words that he was about to say were stuck in his throat. Prime Minister's son hesitated for a moment and said, "Yes." Yin Yanxiu interrupted him again. "You can plead for her, but take her away." Prime Minister's son was stunned. His face turned slightly pale. The meaning of Yin Yanxiu's words was obvious. If he pleaded for Lan Ling Nua, he would leave the Qinghua faction together with him. Prime Minister's son wouldn't take such a risk with his future. He could only hang his head bitterly. Lan Ling Nua also heard Yin Yanxiu's words. She could not believe it. Yin Yanxiu would treat her like this because of those cheese. He did not even give her a chance. Why did he have to let her suffer such humiliation in front of everyone? Did he know that what he was doing now, was it enough to destroy the rest of her life? If what happened today were to spread, not to mention becoming the madam of the faction leader. Even if she wanted to marry someone in the future, no one would be interested in her. No, no. She could not ruin herself like this. She was the most pampered princess in the East Wave continent. Her existence was revered by tens of thousands of people. Young sect leader, is this how the Chinua sect treats its guests? You said it yourself, everyone who comes here is a guest. My East Wave Imperial clan was personally invited by your Chinua sect master. Now that you're treating me like this, doesn't that represent your Chinua sect's attitude towards the East Wave Imperial clan? Lan Ling Nuo raised her voice and enunciated each word venomously. As soon as these words were spoken, the surrounding people all sucked in a breath of cold air. As for Lan Ling Nuo, he silently swore to himself that he must stay away from such a person in the future. It was clear that she was relying on the power of the East Wave Imperial clan to bully the guests who came to attend the birthday banquet. She didn't give the sect master of the Chinua sect any face. Now they were still trying to invert right and wrong, claiming that it was the Chinua sect that was disrespectful to the East Wave Imperial clan? Just how shameless was this princess of the East Wave region? In the eyes of the four great sects, the East Wave Imperial family was nothing. Even the emperors of the four royal families were standing here. The four great sects weren't afraid, all right? The four great sects. The legendary tomb keeper of the divine emperor. His status was outstanding and his identity was honorable. How could a princess of the imperial clan be compared to the young sect master of the four great sects? Who doesn't know that the B*TCH called Yi Luo had secretly colluded with you? Didn't she just whisper in your ear for a few days? As the young sect master of the Chinua sect, why would you lower yourself to cooperate with a lowly commoner and create a mysterious and honorable identity for her? Chapter 25-28. When Lan Ling Nuo said that, the crowd went into an uproar. Although they didn't really believe Lan Ling Nuo's words. But the crowd couldn't control themselves as they shot suspicious gazes towards Yin Yanxiu and Yi Qing Luo. Yin Yanxiu didn't expect Lan Ling Nuo to say such shameless words. His face sunk and the gaze he shot towards Lan Ling Nuo was filled with disgust. You're the East Lan princess, how dare you spout nonsense and slander others? As a lady, you should know clearly how important reputation is to a lady. You actually used such a vicious method to ruin a lady's reputation. This young matriarch has learned something new about your East Lan royal family's teachings. Yin Yanxiu's words seemed to be squeezed out from the slits of his teeth. Apparently he was really infuriated. Lan Ling Nuo's eyes were filled with viciousness as she sneered, I'm merely speaking the truth. If it wasn't for the fact that you have an affair with her, would she be able to stand here today? She scoffed coldly in disdain. Following that, she gave a sinister smile. Young matriarch, today you've embarrassed the East Lan royal family just because of a slut. This princess will not let this matter rest. Yin Yanxiu's expression sunk once again as his face turned steely green. Perhaps this was the first time he had met such a barbaric lady. Just as he was about to speak, Yi Qing Luo's light voice was heard from behind. Young matriarch need not be angry. In my eyes, she's merely a clown trying to please the crowd. She slowly walked past Yin Yanxiu and towards Lan Ling Nuo. The smile on her lips was filled with a hair-raising ridicule. East Lan princess. You think I'm not qualified to stand here? And not qualified to attend the birthday banquet? Lan Ling Nuo was frightened by her smile. She shrank backwards as she kept trembling. But on seeing Yi Qing Luo's pair of smiling yet not smiling eyes, she mustered up her courage as she rebuked, yes. Based on your status, if not for the fact that you've hooked up with young matriarch, how could you possibly stand here? TSK? Then what does East Lan princess think is considered as qualified? Yi Qing Luo touched her chin as she asked with a smile. Lan Ling Nuo bared her teeth in anger. Joy sect is one of the four major sects and is incomparably respectable. Those who attend matriarch's birthday banquet are at least famous in the pugilistic world and have outstanding status. You, an ordinary student who hasn't even graduated, what right do you have? Based on the fact that I am qualified. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she slowly fished out a red invitation card. He held it between his index and middle fingers and waved it in front of Lan Ling Nuo's eyes. I just want to ask you a few questions. Do you think that the 3000 Peach Blossom Mercenary Group can be considered famous in the world of martial artists and is a force that has the right to attend the birthday banquet? When Lan Ling Nuo saw the invitation, her face was full of disdain. But upon hearing Yi Qing Luo's question, she went into a daze. Right, 3000 peaches. How could she forget that Yi Qing Luo and the leader of the 3000 Peach Blossoms had a close relationship? Lan Ling Nua's face paled. Yi Qing Luo smiled even more brilliantly. When the surrounding people heard the words 3,000 peach blossoms, they all expressed that they were absolutely qualified. The 3,000 peach blossom was only a silver mercenary group. Moreover, there weren't many of them. However, the 3,000 peach blossoms were the target that every major clan and faction wanted to curry favor with. It could be said that the distinguished guests present, they all wanted to make friends with the 3,000 peach blossoms. Chapter 25-29. Lan Ling Nua's pale lips trembled. A wave of lingering fear and uneasiness swept through his body and mind. She trembled and her face was deathly pale. How could she dare to bring such a matter to the sect master? If he didn't know about the close relationship between Yi Luo and 3,000 peach blossoms, she might really go to the sect master's place to make a scene. But the 3,000 peach blossoms were willing to go against the warlord's residence for Yi Luo. It was obvious that 3,000 peach blossoms and Yi Luo were very close. Looking at East Lan Juanju's expression, it seems like she doesn't want to bring this matter to sovereign. Yi Qing Luo squinted her long and narrow eyes as she looked down at the disheveled her with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Lan Ling Nua was filled with humiliation, and her eyes were bloodshot. Yi Qing Luo straightened her waist as she closed the invitation card and continued with a beaming smile. And today is Sovereign's birthday celebration. How can such a small matter be brought to Sovereign's attention and affect Sovereign's mood? Her words caused the surrounding onlookers to nod their heads in admiration. He also had a better impression of this girl in red. The eyes of the crowd were sharp. Everyone could see that. It was the East Wave County Lord who had been pestering the red-clothed girl. Time and time again he provoked trouble and spoke rudely. If it were them, they would have sent the East Wave County Lord back to the East Wave continent with a slap and become the high and mighty County Lord. That red-clothed girl's temper was still good. She tolerated it time and time again, not wanting to disturb the sect master's birthday. However, the princess of the East Wave County Lord was overbearing and even spread rumors that there was an affair between the young lady and the young sect master. This kind of rumor, how much damage should it cause to a woman? Everyone felt that Yi Qing Luo was wholeheartedly putting up with it for the sake of Sovereign's birthday banquet. But how would Lan Ling Nua not know that Yi Qing Luo said these words in order to slap her face? The 3,000 peach blossoms. Could it be that the 3,000 peach blossoms gave a coachman the right to enter? Xia Lingling was indignant. Seeing that Lan Ling Nua didn't speak, she glared at Xiao Jin. Even if Yi Qing Luo had the right to attend the Sovereign's birthday banquet, they also wanted to pick a fight. What right did Yi Luo and his group have to attend the sect master's birthday banquet in peace? As a dignified princess, was she going to be asked to leave the Qinyu sect by Yin Yanxiu in such an embarrassing manner? Dream on. If you want to be humiliated, then let's be humiliated together. As soon as Xia Lingling said this, everyone's eyes focused on Xiao Jin. The onlookers were all people with good eyesight. Although Xiao Jin looked ordinary and wore ordinary clothes. However, his temperament was that of someone who had just descended into the mortal world. In addition, Xiao Jin's side was snuggling with a pretty girl, who was bright and beautiful. How was it possible that he was just an ordinary groom? However, how could Xia Lingling see through his temperament? She only knew that the groom was ugly and dressed very plainly. How could a nobody like him participate in the birthday banquet of the Qinyu sect's sect master? But they were going to be driven out? This princess and all of you have brought servants and guards with us. After entering the Qinyu clan manor, we can't even bring a personal maid with us. Why can her coachman come with us? Xia Lingling struggled against the restraints of her arms, gritting her teeth and roaring. Looking at Xia Lingling's hysterical look, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up as her eyes were filled with ridicule. Who told you that he's only a coachman? He obviously. Xia Lingling recalled that Yi Qing Luo had taken out the 3,000 peach blossoms invitation as her face turned pale. Could it be that that person wasn't a coachman? Chapter 25-30. Xiao Jin embraced Yan Xiaoyi's slender waist as a trace of a smile appeared on his ordinary face. That smile was meaningful, but it also revealed a trace of coldness. Xia Lingling felt a chill down her spine. For some inexplicable reason, a feeling of exhaustion welled up in his body. Yan Xiaoyi stretched out her hand and circled it around Xiao Jin's neck, her charming face full of smiles. Slut Jin, I asked you to wear the academy uniform but you refused to do so. Look, the noble little princess has even mistaken you for a coachman. Academy uniform? Xia Lingling caught the keyword. However, he still did not understand the significance of the academy uniform. When Yen Xiaoyi saw this, her beautiful eyes curved as her other hand reached into Qiao Jin's robes and took out a red invitation. She flicked her finger. The red invitation flew straight away like a whirlwind. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and the invitation steadily landed in her palm. The invitation happened to open in his palm. Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nuo could clearly see themselves in the mirror. Heavenly Academy's representatives, Qiao Jin Yen Xiao E Mo Ying. Heavenly Academy's representative? Heavenly Academy? Nirvana Realm had been named the best academy for several years. The best academy that had saved countless academies in the South Continent and produced a savior. Heavenly Academy? These people looked so young. No matter how he looked at it, he was at most a student of the Heavenly Academy. How was it possible to be the representative of the Heavenly Academy to attend the Sovereign's birthday banquet? So, they are the representatives of the Heavenly Academy. As expected of the best academy. I didn't expect that a student who hasn't even graduated can already be a representative. To be looked upon so highly by the academy at such a young age, he will definitely achieve great things in the future. Whether it was sincere or just a compliment. The surrounding people all praised Qiao Jin and the others for being young and promising. These words were like needles that pierced Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nuo. They never would have thought, this ordinary-looking man was actually the representative of the Heavenly Academy. Obviously, 3,000 peach blossoms and the best academy. Yet, he purposely took this ordinary carriage to attend the birthday banquet. They did it on purpose. It was probably a scheme to embarrass them. If Yiqing Luo knew what they were thinking, she would be speechless. These two retards thought that everyone had to be as retarded as them, decorating themselves like Christmas trees and decorating themselves magnificently. Attend a birthday banquet? She could take whichever carriage she wanted. What did it have to do with the two of them? Furthermore, if the two of them hadn't come looking for trouble, would they have ended up like this? He could only say, retardation was an illness that needed to be treated. If he didn't do it, he wouldn't die. Yiqing Luo looked smilingly at the two retards. Now both of you, do you have any more questions? Or, do you want to know if the people in my carriage are qualified to stand here? How could the two of them dare to speak again? It didn't matter how many people were in the carriage or whether they were qualified. Just based on the identity of the 3,000 peach blossoms and the representative of the Heavenly Academy, she was already qualified to stand here. If they insisted on asking everyone in the carriage to come down and verify their identities, they were afraid that in the end they would not only lose face. Don't delay the Sovereign's birthday banquet, let's hurry to the main hall. Yen Xiaoyi wasn't interested in these two retards as she pulled Qiao Jin back to the side of the carriage. This time, no one dared to open their mouths to find trouble. The show ended. Everyone dispersed. But this time, everyone's discussion was no longer about trying to build relationships with each other. Instead, they were guessing the identity of the red-robed young lady. Chapter 25-31. Yin Yanxiu continued to pull the carriage while Yiqing Luo and the rest walked beside the carriage. After a few steps, Yiqing Luo suddenly looked at Yin Yanxiu and looked at those two disheveled princesses who were being restrained by the guards, as she spoke out with good intentions. Young sect master, just send these two noble princesses back to the royal family. No matter what. They are also princess with a respectable status. Yin Yanxiu raised his brows and nodded slightly. The guards who were restraining the two princesses finally carried them towards the entrance of the Qingyue clan's residence. More than 10 guards let out a sharp piercing scream of a lady. Instantly, it attracted the attention of numerous people. Hence, the various forces who were still queuing up saw the Qingyue clan's guards carrying the two princesses and directly throwing them out of the Qingyue clan's residence. Following that, a guard brought over a dilapidated carriage. Lan Ling Nuo and Xia Ling Ling's gazes were fixed on that carriage as their faces revealed a terrified expression. You dare to treat me like this? Xia Ling Ling was so anxious that she cried, "Let go of me. I will go back myself. I don't need you to send me off." The guard forcefully pushed the both of them onto the carriage. This carriage could no longer be described as dilapidated. There wasn't even a lid on the carriage. Both of them sat in the carriage and their upper bodies were completely exposed. Young sect master has ordered me to personally send these two distinguished princesses back to the royal palace. From now on, you are not allowed to step into the Qingyue clan. That guard's loud voice resounded throughout the Qingyue clan's residence. The crowd was in an uproar. These two princesses had offended the young sect master of the Qingyue clan and were chased out. The crowd was getting more and more curious. What on earth had these two princesses done? They actually allowed the young sect master to disregard the relationship between the royal family and Qingyue clan and humiliate them? To sit in such a carriage all the way back to the royal family? It could be said that the reputation of these two princesses, as well as the reputation of the two continents' royal families, was completely ruined. 2 retards had been sent away. Yiqing Luo expressed that even the air had become much fresher. She glanced at Yin Yanxiu, who was calmly pulling the horse's reins and didn't engage in any conversation. In her heart, she had a better impression of him. The young sect master of the Qinyu sect was a smart person. Of course, Yiqing Luo didn't think that Yin Yanxiu would appear here to stand out for them, even at the cost of offending the royal family. It was really just because of the phrase, "Everyone who comes is a guest." A person in a high position would always do everything for their own benefit. If he didn't guess wrong, Yin Yanxiu would rush over. It should be the gatekeeper who saw a certain name on the invitation card and immediately informed Yin Yanxiu about this person's identity, as well as the news of Yiqing Luo and the others clashing with the two princesses. However, from Yin Yanxiu's appearance until now, there was not the slightest hint of trying to curry favor with him. They were extremely well behaved. She liked dealing with smart people. Yiqing Luo thought of Yi Fengyu, who was far away in the west continent, as her lips curled into an extremely shallow smile. If it was possible, she really hoped that Xiaoyu could become good friends with the young sect master of the Qingyue sect. "What are you smiling about, Miss Yi?" Yin Yanxiu's gaze swept over the smile on her lips and asked gently. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways as her brows arched. Maybe she felt that young sect master is someone who can befriend and is happy that she has another friend. Yin Yanxiu also laughed softly. Chapter 25-32. Miaogu family. Miao Rongrong's brows were tightly knitted. Her meticulous makeup couldn't hide her pale complexion. She was supported by a maidservant, her delicate body slightly trembling. "That slut? She actually dares to appear here. Who exactly is she? Why even the young sect master is on her side?" Miao Jingwei's eyes were sinister as he recalled that not long ago at the Peach Blossom restaurant, he felt Yiqing Luo's power as he suppressed his voice. That lady called Yi Luo isn't simple. For young sect master to help her, there are only 2 possibilities. What? Miao Rongrong's face twisted. Firstly, Yi Luo's status is above the imperial clan. That's why the young sect master is willing to offend the imperial clan to protect Yi Luo. Miao Jingwei analyzed rationally. Secondly, there's someone in the carriage that even the Qingyue clan is wary of. Miao Rongrong clenched her fists, her eyes filled with jealousy. "Rongrong." Miao Jingwei held Miao Rongrong's shoulders and sternly said, "The poison in your body can no longer be suppressed. You must find her to detoxify you." Miao Rongrong gritted her teeth. She hated that bitch to death, but now she still had to beg that bitch. How could she lose face like this? Someone that even the young sect master of the joyful Qin sect wants to curry favor with must have an extraordinary identity. Becoming enemies with Yi Luo will only affect our Miaogu clan. Patriarch is a very good example. Miao Jingwei increased the strength in his hand and said, "Rongrong, don't you want to be the Miao tribe's saintess?" "I want to." Miao Rongrong's eyes were filled with hatred. He thought of his father's pathetic state when he escaped from the forbidden land of the Miao tribe. Her hatred towards Yiqing Luo grew. "I know what to do." Miao Jingwei loosened his grip and said, "Yi Luo needs your strength to help him suppress the gu poison. You can use this to repair your relationship with Yi Luo. As long as you can build a relationship with Yi Luo, you will definitely become the holy maiden of the Miao tribe." Miao Rongrong was a little worried, but, "The ancient gu worm has not been found yet," Miao Jingwei interrupted Miao Rongrong. "The ancient gu insect. The patriarch will think of a way. What you need to do now is to stabilize your image and win the right to be selected as the holy maiden." Wind Valley sect. Gu Jingyu slowly retracted his gaze from Yiqing Luo. He looked down at his empty hand and felt an inexplicable sense of melancholy. "Young sect master, do you know that girl?" The great elder of the Wind Valley sect asked in a low voice. Earlier when Gu Jingyu saw Lan Ling Nua and Xia Lingling clashing with Yiqing Luo, he obviously wanted to speak up for Yiqing Luo. If he hadn't stopped her, Gu Jingyu reckoned that he had already offended the royal families of both continents. Their Wind Valley sect had always not interfered in any power struggles. Even though they could tell that their young sect master was interested in that young lady, they couldn't help it. It was also impossible for him to let his young sect leader stand up for that girl. Gu Jingyu did not answer. His 5 fingers curled up little by little and clenched tightly into a fist. Great Elder Gu sighed softly. Young sect master, look at the big picture. Don't forget what the imperial advisor taught you before you came here. At the mention of the imperial tutor, Gu Jingyu's calm eyes had some fluctuations. Master said that on this trip I will meet with the biggest calamity in this lifetime. Perhaps. This is my calamity. He muttered softly as his voice sounded as though he had realized something. Great Elder Gu opened his mouth, but when he saw Gu Jingyu's gloomy eyes, he sighed in the end. Chapter 25-33. Grand Elder Gu glanced at the dispersing crowd and whispered, "Let's enter, young lord." Gu Jingyu allowed Great Elder Gu to pull him toward the lobby. His mind was filled with the image of Yin Yanxiu pulling the carriage and showing great respect to everyone inside. He thought bitterly in his heart, could the person in the carriage be Miss Yi Luo's fiancé? The Joy Clan manor was indeed huge. It was no wonder that the sect master would hold the birthday banquet in the sect manor. They followed Yin Yanxiu for about the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn. Finally they arrived at the lobby. To be personally received by the young sect master, and to be seated in a horse-drawn carriage all the way to the main hall, it could be said that he was the first person to attend the birthday banquet today. Therefore, when the group of people arrived at the lobby, it instantly attracted the attention of countless people. The birthday banquet had yet to officially begin. The sect master of the Great Pleasure sect, Yin Qinghao, was wearing a birthday robe with a crown on his head. He had a joyous smile on his face as he chatted with someone. He was obviously in an extremely good mood. Yiqing Luo spotted 2 familiar faces standing beside the Qinghua sect master. The Miao tribe leader Miao Yixiong, general of the War King's mansion Yuan Zhan. Yiqing Luo raised her brows in astonishment. Wasn't the War King general imprisoned in the imperial palace? Why would he appear at the sect master's birthday banquet? The imperial family would actually give the War King's mansion a chance to make a comeback? No, that's not right. The representative of the Northern Wave imperial family had already been taken by Xia Lingling. It was definitely not the royal family's idea for the warlord's mansion to be here. Instead, congratulating the Qinghua sect master in the name of the War King? Looking at the atmosphere between Yuan Zhan and Yin Qinghao. From the looks of it, their relationship was not bad. Yiqing Luo and the others were simply too eye-catching. At this moment, Yuan Zhan was absent-minded. He immediately saw the approaching carriage. His gaze was fixed on the red figure walking beside the horse carriage. For a moment, the anger that had accumulated in his chest surged to his heart. It was that bitch. That bastard Yi Luo. That slut who destroyed his War King's mansion and caused him to be controlled by the imperial family. How dare she come here? Brother Yuan, what's wrong? Yin Qinghao sensed the anger coming from Yuan Zhan, so he was a bit surprised. Yuan Zhan clenched his fists. His muscles tightened as if he hadn't heard Yin Qinghao's voice. Yin Qinghao followed Yuan Zhan's gaze. Then he saw his son pulling a carriage over. Yin Qinghao had received the news long ago. Yin Yanxiu went out of his way to welcome a big shot who had come to his birthday banquet. Thinking of that big shot, Yin Qinghao immediately stood up and was about to take the initiative to welcome them. However, Yin Qinghao had not lifted his foot. A gust of cold wind blew past him. Yuan Zhan, who had been full of hostility, was already charging towards the carriage. His aura was aggressive and filled with a dense chill. Yin Qinghao's heart thumped. Judging from Yuan Zhan's attitude, it was obvious that he had a grudge against the person in the carriage. The person sitting in the carriage was a distinguished guest. Even the 4 major sects would have to think twice before offending them. Of course, generally speaking, no one from the 4 major sects would be so silly to become enemies with that distinguished guest. Yin Qinghao was afraid that Yuan Zhan would offend the distinguished guest as he hurriedly chased up. Yi Luo, why are you here? Chapter 25-34. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as she sighed helplessly. She really just wanted to attend the birthday banquet. I really didn't want to cause any trouble. At the very least, he didn't think of stirring up trouble before the birthday banquet ended. But why do these things always come knocking on my door one by one? Couldn't they just happily attend the birthday party? Yiqing Luo expressed her helplessness. Yi Luo, what do you want? He had chased her all the way until the sect master's birthday? What enmity do you have with me? Yuan Zhan rushed in front of Yiqing Luo and lowered his voice. Every word and sentence was squeezed out from the gaps between his teeth. Yiqing Luo picked her ears as she lazily raised her eyes and shot a glance at him. In just a few days, Yuan Zhan looked completely different from before. A few days ago, Yuan Zhan was still a high-spirited general. domineering, overbearing, and barbaric. But now there was an unconcealable fatigue on his face. That dignified face was obviously thin. His eyes were cloudy and bloodshot. His originally tall and mighty body also seemed a little dispirited at this moment. Looks like General Zhan Wang's family had suffered quite a bit during this period of time when they were locked up in the palace. Yi Qingluo's attitude had triggered Yuan Zhan's hatred towards her. Yuan Zhan clenched his fists in anger. This is the Qingyue sect leader's birthday banquet, not a place for you to behave atrociously. On account of the sect master's birthday banquet, this general will not bicker with you. Now scram for this general. Get out of this general's sight. He suppressed his anger. The muscles all over his body tightened. Yuan Zhan purposely lowered his voice. No matter how good the hearing of the people around them was, they couldn't hear it clearly. However, Yin Yanxiu, who was standing to the side, heard Yuan Zhan's words clearly. She could clearly feel how deep Yuan Zhan's hatred for Yi Qingluo was, so deep that he almost wanted to kill her. Yin Yanxiu more or less knew something about the warlord's mansion. It was just that he didn't know the reason. As for Yuan Zhan's purpose in coming to the Qinyu sect, he more or less understood. From the looks of it, the War King's mansion would be controlled by the royal family. It was related to Yi Qingluo? Yin Yanxiu couldn't help but size up Yi Qingluo. He secretly guessed the identity of this girl. Looking at Yuan Zhan's outburst of anger, he clenched his fist tightly, as though he was about to punch Yi Qingluo's delicate face. Yin Yanxiu cleared his throat and was about to dissuade Yuan Zhan. However, the girl's clear and sweet voice rang out leisurely, "General Battle King's words are ridiculous. Who gave you the confidence to think that? I came to the Qinyu sect because of you?" Yi Qingluo didn't intentionally suppress her voice. The surrounding people all heard Yi Qingluo's words clearly. Yuan Zhan's face turned green. Yi Qingluo's lips curled upwards as she smiled indifferently. "General Battle King, don't be so narcissistic and don't be so shameless. I don't even put your Battle King's manner in my eyes." Yuan Zhan's face was as black as charcoal. This slut, how dare she humiliate him in front of so many high-ranking officials and dignitaries. "Stop I have no interest to waste time with you here." Yi Qingluo's pink lips curved upwards as her evil and teasing gaze met Yuan Zhan's eyes. That pair of smiling eyes flashed. Yuan Zhan's eyes reflected that pair of long and narrow evil charming eyes. His heart suddenly trembled violently. Chapter 25-35. Obviously, when Yi Qingluo and Yuan Zhan stood face to face, Yi Qingluo didn't even reach Yuan Zhan's shoulder. Obviously, Yi Qingluo raised her head and looked at Yuan Zhan in the eyes. But unfortunately, Yuan Zhan felt an indescribable pressure pressing heavily on his shoulder. That gaze was like an icy cold poisonous snake, entangling him bit by bit. He actually had a feeling that he couldn't breathe. How high was this slut's ability? How could she suppress his aura so easily? And as for the reason why I'm here, naturally has nothing to do with you, Battle King General. The smile in Yi Qingluo's eyes deepened by several notches. Today is Qingyue sect's matriarch's birthday. Other than to celebrate his birthday, what other reason would I have to stand here? Hearing Yi Qingluo's reply, Yuan Zhan's face turned green and white. He knew clearly that Yi Qingluo was doing this on purpose. Intentionally to embarrass him in front of all the officials and dignitaries of the various continents. Intentionally to ruin his reputation as the Battle King General. On purpose, Yuan Zhan clenched his fists tightly as he suppressed his anger. His entire body was trembling slightly. Yin Yanxiu's eyes flickered slightly as he took a huge step forward and stood in front of Yi Qingluo. His tall and sturdy body blocked Yi Qingluo completely. Yuan Zhan was obviously stunned as his body turned extremely stiff. Battle King General. Yin Yanxiu smiled slightly. This is a distinguished guest invited by Father. Today is Father's birthday banquet. I hope General Battle King can maintain a happy mood. Yuan Zhan's tightened arms bulged with muscles. The expression on his face kept on twisting. After some time, Yuan Zhan's tightly pursed lips revealed a stiff arc. To be able to attend the matriarch's birthday banquet, I'm naturally happy. That smile was even uglier than crying. Yin Yanxiu pretended not to see his reluctance as he raised his hand and patted Yuan Zhan's shoulder lightly. Battle King General, I'll bring these distinguished guests to meet Father first. Yuan Zhan's breathing stagnated. Once he lost power, he was trampled by thousands. Since when did a junior dare to be so disrespectful to him? He suppressed the anger in his chest and moved away bit by bit. Make way for them. At this time Yin Qinghao had already caught up. Seeing Yuan Zhan's expression, he hurriedly smiled and said, "So General Battle King and Lady Yi are old friends. Thank you all for coming all the way here to attend my birthday banquet. Come, please enter the hall. I have already arranged your seats." Yuan Zhan stood on the side, watching Yin Qinghao talking to Yi Luo in a friendly manner, as well as Yi Luo's mocking smile. He felt as if he had been slapped in the face. Almost subconsciously he sneered, "That's right, Lady Yi and I are old acquaintances. However, I am very curious. What is Lady Ye's identity that the sect master admires you so much?" His words seemed as though he was curious about Yi Qing Luo's identity. However, his words were clearly overbearing. When the words came out of his mouth, Yuan Zhan was also taken aback. But he did not regret it. Chapter 2536. General War King. Yin Yanxiu frowned and shouted in a low voice. Just as he was about to stop Yuan Zhan's overbearing manner, Yi Qing Luo had already laughed out softly. Hearing General Battle King's tone, "Why does it have a sour taste? Could it be General Warlord is jealous of me? Are you jealous that a little girl like me is able to get acquainted with the leader of the 3,000 peach blossoms and gain the sect master's appreciation?" Puchi, the surrounding people couldn't help but burst out laughing. The War King General was jealous of a 15-year-old girl? No matter how one listened to it, these words sounded exceptionally ridiculous. But, when it was said by this young girl, he felt that what she said seemed very reasonable. General Zhan Wang's sour tone. No matter how one listened to it, it was filled with jealousy and indignation. "Ew. What nonsense are you spouting? What do you have to make me jealous?" Yuan Zhan gritted his teeth in anger. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes innocently. "Oh. General Battle King's meaning is that you don't want to get acquainted with 3,000 peach blossoms, and don't want to be on good terms with Sovereign?" Yuan Zhan was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged. That pair of malicious eyes couldn't wait to use his gaze to tear Yi Qing Luo into pieces. "Yi Luo, you're deliberately changing the topic. You don't want everyone to know your true identity, do you?" Yuan Zhan took a deep breath and suppressed his anger as he stared at Yi Qing Luo and said word by word, "You're from the West Wave Continent. On the first day you arrived at the North Wave Continent, you got into a conflict with my son Yuan Kuang. You poisoned Kuang and caused a ruckus in my warlord's mansion, and now you're in such a state." He paused and suddenly looked at a certain place. In a cold voice he said, "This general's only son is poisoned and is bedridden. The doctors are unable to cure him. This general can only go to the Miao Gu family and plead with young Miss Miao to save him. I didn't expect that this woman's goal was not just the Warlord Manor. She borrowed the hands of the Warlord Manor to infect young Miss Miao with the poison." He was looking in the direction of the Miao tribe leader, Miao Yixiong. Everyone's gaze landed on Miao Yixiong at the same time. Miao Yixiong almost cursed. Damn that Yuan Zhan. How dare he say that his daughter was poisoned in front of so many people? He had tried so hard to hide it. He didn't want to affect Miao Rongrong's chances of becoming the Holy Maiden. If the Miao tribesmen knew that Miao Rongrong had been poisoned by an incurable poison, the tribesmen were terrified and believed that this was the order of the poison god to deny Miao Rongrong the right to be the Holy Virgin. Yuan Zhan actually dragged his Miao tribe into this at this time. Was he trying to destroy him and the Miao tribe? He was so angry that his face turned pale. However, in Yuan Zhan's eyes, he felt that Miao Yixiong was infuriated by Yi Qing Luo's shamelessness. Although he had been imprisoned by the royal family for the past few days. However, after so many years, his forces and informants had already spread all over the Northern Wave Continent. What he wanted to know. It was still a piece of cake. Yi Qing Luo and the others trespassed into the Miao tribe to save someone, creating a huge ruckus in the Miao tribe, and even destroying the seal which the Miao tribe had been guarding for hundreds of years. Yuan Zhan had received the news long ago. Therefore he had deliberately dragged Miao Yixiong out at this time. Presumably Miao Yixiong hated Yi Qing Luo to the core. If the two of them could work together and kill this bitch. Chapter 2537. Yi Qing Luo naturally didn't miss the sinister and complacent look in Yuan Zhan's eyes. She had more or less guessed Yuan Zhan's thoughts at this moment. Her pink lips rose slightly as she smiled at Miao Yixiong. "Oh? Miao Yixiong, I didn't know I was so hateful. Not only did I cause young master to be poisoned, but also eldest Miss Miao. I'm really amazing." There was a hint of a smile in her voice as she spoke. Miao Yixiong felt a chill down his spine. Obviously it was a bright and radiant smile. But in his eyes, it was a summon from hell. "Miao Yixiong, this is Qinghua sect. Our brothers from all over the world are here. We must expose this vicious woman's true colors. Otherwise, next month, the Battle King's residence will be someone else. Yuan Zhan got anxious when he saw Miao Yixiong's silence. He must pull Miao Yixiong to his side. Moreover, Yuan Zhan had another thought in his mind. Yi Luo, that slut, an ordinary student. But Yin Qinghao gave her so much face and even looked so respectful. Could it be that Yi Luo and Yin Qinghao were in cahoots? He had been guessing the reason. The real culprit behind the scenes was actually Qingyue sect's sovereign Yin Qinghao? True colors. Yin Qinghao frowned slightly as his eyes locked tightly as he looked at Yuan Zhan. What does General Battle King mean by this? Yuan Zhan's gaze fell on Miao Yixiong. Miao Yixiong was suffocated by Yi Qingluo's gaze. At this moment Yuan Zhan was still pressing on. His face turned pale as he gritted his teeth. General Battle King, where did you hear this news from? Miss Yi has no enmity with my Miao tribe, so why would she poison Rongrong? Yuan Zhan's expression changed drastically. You? Miao Yixiong, are you going to watch this slut mislead the masses and destroy the northern continent? General Battle King, you're the one who misleads the masses, right? Miao Yixiong's brows furrowed as he berated sternly. Would I use my daughter's life as a joke? If my daughter was poisoned, would she still attend the sovereign's birthday banquet today? As he spoke, he extended his hand behind him. Rongrong, come here. Let General Warlord take a good look at you. Tell your uncle Warlord, what poison have you been poisoned by? In the Miao Gu aristocrat clan's territory, a woman dressed in jade-green Miao clothing leisurely walked out. Miao Rongrong's face was exquisite, and her smile was appropriate. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with a moist luster. She slowly walked to Miao Yixiong's side and bowed in Yuan Zhan's direction with the etiquette of a junior. Thank you for your concern, General Warlord. I've never been poisoned since the beginning. Perhaps you've misunderstood, General Warlord. Although Miao Rongrong's face was a little pale. However, he was in a healthy state and did not look like someone who had been poisoned. You. Yuan Zhan staggered backward, pointing at Miao Rongrong and Miao Yixiong in disbelief. A few days ago, Miao Rongrong was poisoned in the War King's residence. Looking at her. How could she not be poisoned? Why would the people of the Miao tribe speak up for that bitch Yi Luo? Could it be that Miao Yixiong did not hate Yi Luo for destroying the Miao tribe's seal? Looking at Yuan Zhan's dispirited and incomprehensible expression, Miao Yixiong's eyes widened. Chapter 2538. Yuan Zhan was about to go crazy. A pair of malicious eyes stared at Yi Qingluo viciously. Yi Qingluo was fearless as she walked towards Yuan Zhan. One step after another. It was majestic and intimidating. Yuan Zhan, who had been through a lot of battles, actually felt a chill in his face, attacking his senses. Instinctively he took a step back. However, Yi Qingluo had already walked right in front of him. Did General Warlord say anything? Now, isn't it my turn to speak? Yi Qingluo was all smiles as her tone was extremely gentle. In the eyes of others, Yi Qingluo's action was merely a casual chat with Yuan Zhan. Only Yuan Zhan knew what he was feeling right now. The girl in front of him was like a demon from hell. She had appeared to claim his life. What are you trying to say? Are you trying to argue? Yuan Zhan tried to show his authority as a general. But his mind was filled with images of Yuan Kuang going crazy from being poisoned and Miao Rongrong lying on the bed. Inexplicably, his heart was filled with fear towards this young lady. General Battle King deliberately tried to belittle me and slander me. He even dragged the Miao tribe's patriarch along to slander me. Yi Qingluo pursed her pink lips. Luckily the Miao clan's leader is a righteous person and didn't collude with you. After she finished speaking, her gaze suddenly became sharp. You think I'm just an ordinary student? Then, as a War King general, why are you so painstakingly targeting a weak girl like me? It's fine if it's once or twice, but this is the sect leader's birthday banquet, yet you still insist on being so overbearing and pestering us endlessly. I really want to know. General Battle King, what is the meaning of this? Yuan Zhan's face turned red, and he stomped his feet in anger. He had never been questioned by a junior to the point of being speechless. He was a dignified War King general, the mighty War King of the Northern Wave continent who slaughtered in all directions. How could he suffer such humiliation? His face was red and his neck was thick. He choked and said angrily, Yi Luo? Continue to twist words and force logic, continue to quibble. Today is the sect master's birthday banquet. I won't argue with you. We have plenty of time in the future. Yuan Zhan was not an idiot. The current situation was extremely disadvantageous to him. Yin Qinghao was obviously trying to protect that bitch. It was not easy for him to get the chance to leave the palace. As long as Yin Qinghao was willing to help, he would soon be able to return to the War King's mansion. No matter what, he couldn't miss this opportunity. Otherwise, the Battle King's mansion was really going to fall. There were many ways to deal with Yi Luo. There was no need for him to argue with Yi Luo on this occasion. Yuan Zhan had indeed thought things through. The choice he made was indeed the best one for him at the moment. However, if he wanted to pretend that nothing had happened, even if Yi Qingluo agreed, that would depend on whether her brothers would agree to it or not. Yuan Zhan clenched his fists, suppressed his anger, and prepared to return to his seat. Suddenly, a man's deep and steady voice shocked everyone present. Only in the future? As soon as this voice came out, the noisy crowd immediately quietened down. Everyone's gaze turned towards the direction of the voice. That seemingly ordinary carriage that could drive into the entrance of the main hall. The voice sounded like that of a young man in his mid-20s. But the majesty in his tone was intimidating. Who was it? Who was speaking? Yuan Zhan, who was about to leave, froze on the spot. Chapter 2539. The curtains of the carriage were lifted. A black figure walked down from the carriage. The youth in black was calm and expressionless. Soon after, a young man dressed in white walked out from behind him. Yuan Zhan frowned as he stared at the young man in black without blinking. Obviously, he didn't recognize the two people. Yuan Zhan didn't recognize them. But that didn't mean that people from other continents didn't recognize them. When they saw the youth in black, many representatives of the major forces cried out in surprise, "Master Gui Wu! Master Gui Wu! It's actually Master Gui Wu! Did the Qinghua sect master invite Master Gui Wu?" There wasn't a single person who didn't know the name of the Ghost Martial Grandmaster. He was an expert obsessed with martial arts, and his profound rank was unfathomable. Every major force in the world wanted to have a relationship with Master Gui Wu. But other than a youth called Young Master Emo, Master Gui Wu didn't care about anyone else. He was wholeheartedly studying martial arts. He was a complete martial arts fanatic. But unexpectedly, Master Gui Wu didn't miss any time to practice martial arts. He actually came to attend the birthday banquet of the Qinghua sect master. This was the first time Master Gui Wu appeared on such an occasion. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. They excitedly imagined a great drama about how to hook up with the ghost martial artist. Yin Qinghao's eyes were also shining with excitement. His hands were trembling as he smiled and looked at Master Gui Wu. "Master Gui Wu, welcome. I didn't expect that. Master Gui Wu would come to my birthday banquet." Sending the invitation to Master Gui Wu was a courtesy. Yin Qinghao didn't think that Master Gui Wu would really come. After all, Master Gui Wu had received a lot of invitations over the years, but had never appeared. It could be said that this was the first time Master Gui Wu appeared on such an occasion. Yin Qinghao's respect for Master Gui Wu. It wasn't because of how high Master Gui Wu's status was. It was because of Master Gui Wu's ability. Master Gui Wu's obsession with martial arts. Master Gui Wu's seriousness in martial arts. Master Gui Wu's strict attitude towards training and improving his strength. All of these were enough to make people admire Master Gui Wu. Master Gui Wu looked at Yin Qinghao indifferently. He raised his hand and handed over a brocade box. "Congratulations on the 50th birthday of the Qinghua sect master." Yin Qinghao's eyes widened in shock. For a moment he forgot to reach out for the brocade box. The surrounding people were also shocked at this moment. The whole place was filled with the sound of people sucking in cold air. Fortunately, Yin Yanxiu was the first to react. He hurriedly took the brocade box and said a few words of thanks. Only then did Yin Qinghao return to his senses. However, he was still filled with shock. For Gui Wu to come to his birthday banquet was already giving him a lot of face. Gui Wu had actually brought a congratulatory gift for him. Wait a minute, Gui Wu had come from that carriage. That carriage was Yi Qingluo's carriage. In other words, the reason why Gui Wu came to the birthday banquet was because of Yi Qingluo? Ever since Yin Qinghao learned that a big shot would be attending the birthday banquet, he had been guessing who that person would be. However, he had never thought that it would be the ghost martial artist. Ghost martial master. Yuan Zhan had naturally heard of the ghost martial master. He was unable to believe that the young man in front of him was the famous ghost martial artist. However, seeing Yin Qinghao's respectful attitude towards the ghost martial artist, it was absolutely the ghost martial artist. The ghost martial artist had actually come down from that slut Yi Luo's carriage. Chapter 2540. It wasn't only Yuan Zhan who was shocked. All the powerful people around started to express their curiosity towards Yi Qing Luo's identity. She was really just an ordinary student? How could she be so close to the leader of the 3,000 peach blossoms and make them become enemies with the Battle King's residents because of her? She was really just an ordinary student? How could she have such a strong aura? Even the Battle King's general who had been on the battlefield for many years couldn't gain any advantage in her hands. She was really just an ordinary student? A great god-level figure like Gui Wu, who was so cold and unapproachable, would sit in the same carriage as her? Now, it was obvious that he intended to stand up for her. This lady was definitely not just an ordinary student. Yuan Zhan was aware of this point. His face was pale as he looked at Gui Wu's direction in disbelief. His tall body was trembling non-stop. What was the relationship between Yi Luo and Gui Wu? Why would Gui Wu stand on her side? Who was Yi Luo? Why couldn't he find out anything about Yi Luo's other identities? Obviously, just an ordinary student from an ordinary school. Suddenly, Yuan Zhan's gaze was fixed on Peach, who had alighted from the carriage. His facial features immediately contorted. Right. 3,000 peach blossoms. With 3,000 peach blossoms around, whatever he wanted to investigate, wasn't it what 3,000 peach blossoms wanted him to know? 3,000 peach blossoms must have helped Yi Luo to hide her real identity. What does General Battle King want to do to our Yi Luo? Long days ahead? What future does a family that has been abandoned by the royal family have? Peach didn't leave any face for Yuan Zhan the moment she opened her mouth. Yuan Zhan was so angry that his face turned green and white as he stared at Peach viciously. Leader Tao, I am the Battle King of the North Continent and have made great achievements for the North Continent. How could the royal family abandon me? Don't rely on the influence of 3,000 peach blossoms to scare me. Peach crossed her arms and sneered, I have never done anything wrong in my investigations. Do you think you still have a chance to make a comeback? What a pity, not to mention the royal family won't give you this chance. Just based on your attitude towards our Yi Luo, you won't have this chance. Yuan Zhan's chest was filled with endless resentment. When he heard Peach's words, the anger in his heart burned even more fiercely. His eyes were scarlet red and the veins on his forehead were bulging. His entire face was sinister and terrifying. When the surrounding large powerhouses saw this scene, after weighing the pros and cons, they naturally stood on Yi Qing Luo's side without any hesitation. Not to mention whether or not the royal family had given up on the War King General. Now Gui Wu was obviously helping Yi Qing Luo. He had offended the ghost warrior. Yuan Zhan still had a chance to turn things around? There's no need to make the sect master's birthday so unpleasant. Yi Qing Luo giggled as she moved closer to Gui Wu's side. Master Gui Wu, there's no need to trouble you to make a move on this trash that even I don't fancy. Let's take a seat. Gui Wu shot a cold glance at Yi Qing Luo, as he wordlessly walked towards the direction where Yin Qinghao had invited them to. Another wave of gasps could be heard from the crowd. They all thought to themselves, Master Gui Wu and this girl definitely have a close relationship. With a single sentence from this lady, Gui Wu let off General War King. Even young Master Mo might not be able to influence Gui Wu's choice, right? Seeing Gui Wu and Zhou Mo, who was carrying Kitty Li, walking towards their seats, Peach immediately followed suit. Chapter 2541. Yuan Zhan was extremely infuriated. A junior dared to be so presumptuous in front of him. Good. Now these few sluts, relying on Ghost Marshal's momentum, were trying their best to step on him. Some other day. He must make these few sluts kneel down and beg him. Yuan Zhan's eyes were filled with a chilly intent. He had never believed it. The real group leader of the 3,000 peach blossoms was that young lass in her teens. For the 3,000 peach blossoms to grow to their current status, there must be a mysterious force supporting them from the back. A small puppet. How dare they spout such nonsense in front of him? Yi Luo. Tao. These two sluts, just you wait. The intense hatred coming from behind kept stabbing Yi Qing Luo's back. She didn't need to turn her head to know that the hatred was emitted from Yuan Zhan. To tell the truth, ever since Yuan Zhan and his family were imprisoned in the palace, Yi Qing Luo didn't put the Battle King's residence in her eyes. This kind of scum, casually torturing, was to seek revenge for Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu's grandson and granddaughter. The group of 10 people, under Yin Qinghao's personal guidance, came to their seats. It was a seat near the front. There was Ghost Marshal sitting here. Yi Qing Luo and the rest didn't hesitate as they sat down. One after another, the distinguished guests arrived. Yin Qinghao, as today's birthday boy, how could he not accept everyone's blessings? After exchanging some conventional greetings, Yin Qinghao and Yin Yanxiu left together. I say, little Qing Luo, how long have you been in the northern continent and you've already made so many enemies? That's impressive. Zhou Mo glanced sideways as he teased. Yan Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin expressed their agreement. It was just a short distance. Those who were looking for trouble could go one round. They were really curious. In this period of time when Yi Qing Luo was in the northern continent, what had she done to incur the wrath of the gods? Yan Xiaoyi shook off Xiao Jin's arm and rubbed against Yi Qing Luo's side, holding her hand as she asked with a smile, Qing Luo, you really poisoned Yuan Zhan's only son? They had been in the northern continent for a few days. They had heard of this rumor. But they wanted to hear Yi Qing Luo admit it personally. On his first day of hiding his identity in the northern wave continent, he had already clashed with the little tyrant of the Great Joy sect. Furthermore, he even poisoned her directly. Stirring up trouble, big trouble. They expressed that they really wanted to know what was Yi Qing Luo's motive for doing this. Xiao Qing Luo, what kind of enmity do you have that you, who specially disguised yourself to keep a low profile, would lay your hands on little prince? Zhou Mo narrowed his almond-shaped eyes and smiled seductively. This young master heard that the young prince was poisoned and went crazy, causing him to lose the ability to reproduce. He could hear the ridicule in Zhou Mo's words. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she glanced sideways at the displeased kitten who was struggling in his arms with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Her voice was very soft and slow as she said, the little prince you speak of is only 13 or 14 years old, but he already knows how to flirt with innocent girls on the street. Tell me, shouldn't he be punished? Zhou Mo's body stiffened. He lowered his eyes and looked at Kitty Li in his arms. Recalling Yi Qing Luo's smiling yet not smiling expression, Zhou Mo's evildoer face instantly turned steely green. You're saying, that lad even took liberties with this young master's woman? Yi Qing Luo smiled but didn't say a word. Zhou Mo immediately went berserk. F***K. This young master's woman also dares to take liberties. Good poison. Who asked him to take liberties with this young master's woman? To make him impotent is already letting him off easy. Chapter 2542. Zhou Mo seemed as though he couldn't hear Kitty Li's protest as he lowered his head and kissed her ear. Little wild cat, in future whoever dares to tease you, I will kill that person, do you hear me? Kitty Li's face turned even redder as she retorted in a low voice. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she shook her head as she watched the couple fooling around. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes as she leaned back on the chair. In her mind, the words that Dmo Xian said to her in the Miao tribe's sealed ground surfaced. That handsome and peerless face had always lingered in her mind. Her mind was filled with, he said he missed her. He said wait for him. He said, that bastard man, he left for such a long time. It wasn't easy for him to come back. He left after flirting with her. He didn't know that this kind of flirting would make her miss him even more? Especially when she saw Zhou Mo and Kitty Li's happiness. And when she saw Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi's happiness. She couldn't help but think of Dmo Xian. She missed him more and more. Student Yi Qing Luo. A calm voice suddenly rang beside her ear. Yi Qing Luo suddenly opened her eyes were clear. She looked sideways at the young man beside her and smiled slightly. Master Gui Wu. Gui Wu's icy cold gaze was fixed on her eyes. She didn't hide as she maintained her smile. After a while Gui Wu's thin lips moved. You miss the overlord. It wasn't a questioning tone but a statement of fact. Yi Qing Luo laughed. Is it so obvious that I miss him? Gui Wu replied straightforwardly, the way you look at Mo and Kitty Li is very fleeting. Yi Qing Luo raised her head as her gaze fell on the top of her head without any focus, destroying the luxurious lights carved from luminous pearls. I don't know how far away, from the upper realm is from here. She murmured, her tone couldn't conceal her loneliness. Very far. Gui Wu was insensitive and didn't care about her feelings. If you want to shorten the distance between you, then head to the upper realm yourself. Easier said than done? Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. The method to head to the upper realm is too much for me now. Is it difficult? Gui Wu's cold eyes looked at the side of her face. Since you said that, you should already know the way to go to the upper realm. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched but she wasn't able to curl into a smile. Gui Wu faintly continued, your talent is very strong but, If you want to be promoted to the Heavenly Way historian and verify that your profound rank has reached the level to go to the upper realm, you still need to cultivate for a long time. Yes. Yi Qing Luo was very clear about this point. No matter how talented he was, there was no way he could become fat in one bite. If he advanced too quickly, it would not be beneficial to his own adaptability and control over his profound strength. Moreover, in the nirvana realm, where the spiritual qi was relatively thin, it was really difficult to advance to that level. You have the scent of a sacred beast on you. Gui Wu's gaze locked onto Yi Qing Luo. Collect the sacred beast pearls of the 4 sacred beasts and you can head to the upper realm in advance. Gui Wu's words made Yi Qing Luo's heart shudder. Didn't the upper Shin Hall master say this before? The news of using the sacred beast pearls to open the teleportation door to the upper realm, basically, no one knew about it? She frowned and suddenly sat up straight. You. She pursed her pink lips. What you said is true? With the sacred beast pearls I can go to the upper realm? Chapter 2543. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she lowered her eyes in silence. Indeed, based on the current development trend, gathering all the sacred beast pearls and opening the teleportation door to the upper realm was the best choice, especially since she had contracted white tiger, vermilion bird and half of black tortoise's soul. Subduing black tortoise was only a matter of time, which meant that she already had 3 sacred beasts in her hands. Just one more. But, thinking of what Jun Qingwu said regarding the sacred beast pearls opening the upper realm, Yi Qing Luo was unable to make up her mind. If she really chose the method of using the sacred beast pearls to open the teleportation door, she was bound to contract the 4 sacred beast pearls as her lifeline. After all, the sacred beast pearls sealed the remnant power of the Emperor of God and absolutely could not be revealed. She didn't want to see a huge war because of her. These people in Nirvana realm were not able to withstand the power of those people from the upper realm. But, if she really contracted the 4 sacred beast pearls and became her lifeline, once something happened, the 4 sacred beasts would be in trouble. She didn't want to see such a situation. She didn't have the confidence to believe that she could protect the 4 sacred beasts in this world where there were always people stronger than her. Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo's eyes faintly flashed a dim luster. She was ultimately not strong enough. She had the ability like Xian. She would be able to fearlessly choose what she wanted to choose. Because she wasn't strong enough. So she had too many concerns. Which was why she was unable to grow. If the person who gathered the 4 sacred beast pearls was someone else, perhaps I would still step forward to stop them. Gui Wu's icy cold voice rang in her ears once again. His tone was very indifferent. So indifferent that Yi Qing Luo totally couldn't hear the deep meaning in his words. She pursed her lips as she blinked her eyes in puzzlement and looked towards Gui Wu. His icy cold emotionless eyes stared straight at her, as though he had seen through her soul. Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped and her lips twitched as she pretended to be joking. Master Gui Wu has so much confidence in me. Yes. Gui Wu didn't know how to beat around the bush and didn't want to. If it was you, not only would I not stop you but I would also help you. His answer was very straightforward and his gaze did not waver at all. Gui Wu's straightforwardness made Yi Qing Luo slightly dazed. After a long time, her pink lips moved and she forced out a few words. Why? Because of your character. I trust you. Gui Wu's gaze slowly turned to Kitty Li, who was nestled in Zhou Mo's embrace. She seemed to be arguing with Zhou Mo about something, but there was a clear smile on her face. The cat beast clan is a rare species and they are very powerful. Every single one of them is extremely arrogant, and they don't put humans in their eyes. Hearing Ghost Marshal reveal Kitty Li's true identity, Yi Qing Luo wasn't surprised at all. Gui Wu's identity was extremely mysterious. Yi Qing Luo could conclude that Gui Wu was at least the same as Diamo Xin, not someone from the Nirvana realm. The relationship between Gui Wu and Zhou Mo was also that intimate. Zhou Mo took a fancy to Kitty Li. If Gui Wu wanted to investigate Kitty Li and find out her background, it wasn't a difficult matter. The Cat Beast clan has the same acute senses as a cat, especially the daughter of the Cat King, the princess of the Cat Beast clan. Not only her personality but also her senses towards humans are much clearer than ordinary cat beasts. Chapter 2544. So, Yi Qing Luo didn't quite understand what Gui Wu's intention was. So if it's you, even if you contract the 4 sacred beasts, you won't just treat them as your own battle pets. You will risk your life to protect your sacred beast. Gui Wu looked at her without blinking. In this way, even if you contract the sacred beast pearl for the sacred beasts, you will also try your best to protect the lifeline pearl. Yiqing Luo didn't know how to reply. She had to admit that what Gui Wu said was right. She didn't dare to take the risk. Not because she was afraid of her own death, but because she was afraid of those battle pets who had signed a contract with her. Once the lifeline pearl's energy was absorbed, the 4 sacred beasts would disappear from the world. She couldn't take the life of her partners who had risked their lives for it. Just as she was in deep thoughts, Gui Wu suddenly opened his mouth. In the northern continent, you will stay for at least another month. In this 1 month you have to consider carefully. If you decide to choose the method of using the sacred beast pearl to open the transportation door, I will help you to get the sacred beast pearl from Qinyu sect. Help her. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened. Gui Wu personally asked Yin Qinghao for the sacred beast pearl. Even if Yin Qinghao was reluctant, he would probably hand it over to Gui Wu in the end. But Gui Wu was bound to discuss the conditions with Yin Qinghao. Gui Wu, who had always been obsessed with martial arts. For her, to pull the distance closer to Qinyu sect and spend his time on Qinyu sect? Wasn't this kind of sacrifice a little too huge? Why did she feel Gui Wu seemed to want her to contract the sacred beast pearl? Of course Yiqing Luo could feel it. Gui Wu had no ill intentions towards her. Suddenly, her arm tightened as a little head rubbed against her shoulder. Qing Luo, why are you in a daze? Sitting here in a daze not saying a word? Yiqing Luo glanced sideways and met Yan Xiaoyi's smiling beautiful eyes. She was stunned as she looked at Gui Wu beside her. I've always been with Gui Wu. Before she could finish her words, Yan Xiaoyi interrupted her words and grumbled, You and Master Gui Wu are playing deep here. When I talk to you, both of you are ignoring me. Playing deep? Ignoring me? Wasn't she talking to Gui Wu about the sacred beast orb just now? Yiqing Luo's suspicious gaze swept towards Gui Wu. Coincidentally, Gui Wu's deep and cold eyes were looking over. Yiqing Luo instantly understood. Just now, the two of them had discussed the taboo of the Nirvana realm. Gui Wu had definitely created a barrier to separate the space between the two of them, so as to protect the content of their conversation. After thinking it through, Yiqing Luo immediately smiled. Nothing, I was just thinking about something and didn't notice that you called me. Do you miss Dizun? Yan Xiaoyi smiled ambiguously. Watching young Master Mo and Kitty's lovey-dovey scene, do you miss the Overlord? Do you want the Overlord to show us some dog food? Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. Ever since they understood the true meaning of the word dog food, every single word and sentence was hanging on the tip of his tongue. At this moment, an extremely cheerful birthday song sounded in the hall. The birthday banquet officially began. Yin Qinghao was grinning from ear to ear on the main seat as he gave a long speech of thanks, expressing his excitement and gratitude towards everyone. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to survey the surroundings. The entire hall was filled with people. But Yiqing Luo could obviously feel it. Most of the people's gazes were fixed on the people in the row. Chapter 2545. After Yin Qinghao expressed his gratitude, Li Tianlan very quickly, various congratulatory voices resounded in the main hall. Yin Yanxiu presented his birthday gift. When Yin Yanxiu revealed what the gift was, everyone was filled with envy. The gaze they shot at Yin Qinghao was filled with a trace of pleading and greed. They had to admit, Yin Yanxiu had put in a lot of effort for this gift. 3 small jars of medicinal wine. It was made from top-grade medicinal pills and through a special technique, it had been brewed for 50 years. 1 jar was palm-sized and could be drunk in about 10 mouthfuls. But this medicinal wine, after drinking a mouthful, had the effect of prolonging one's lifespan and raising one's profound energy. What's more, within 4 hours of drinking this wine, if it wasn't for the rare poison, the drinker could achieve the state of being immune to hundreds of poisons. To cultivators, this was an extremely precious medicinal wine. There were already quite a number of VIPs who were secretly thinking about it. After the birthday banquet ended, they would ask the young matriarch of Qinyu sect if there was any more of this medicinal wine. Even if they had to spend a huge sum of money, they would still be willing to get a pot. After Yin Yanxiu presented his gift, people started to present their gifts one by one. The scene became extremely lively. Fine wine and delicacies were also served. Various forces were also chatting with each other. The atmosphere was extremely good. There were quite a number of people who wanted to go up to ghost martial artists several times. But before they could get close, they were scared away by the cold air emitted from ghost martial artist. Some people also wanted to talk to ghost martial artist through Yiqing Luo and the others. But ghost martial artist's low pressure was too horrifying. Hence, Yiqing Luo was happy to be idle as she munched on the snacks in front of her. Her expression was languid, as though she didn't care about anything in front of her. Suddenly her eyes lit up. She caught a glimpse of a figure hurriedly walking towards Yin Qinghao. That was Qin Yu Sect's servant. Everyone's attention was placed on the gifts presented by the VIPs, or the forces who were chatting with them, or ghost martial artist etc. And in the main hall, the maids and manservants were walking back and forth. No one noticed the figure that was in a hurry. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as a smile curled up with interest. Her elbow was bumped by someone. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways and met with Yan Xiaoyi's curious eyes. Yan Xiaoyi knocked Yiqing Luo's hand as she suppressed her voice. Did you see that? Yes. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and shot a glance at that servant. Someone is here to add a good show to the birthday banquet. As expected, the servant walked to Yin Yanxiu's side and whispered something into his ear. Yin Yanxiu's face darkened. Yin Qinghao also noticed the expressions of his son and the servants. He pretended to chat with Yin Yanxiu and asked for the reason. After hearing something, his face darkened. However, he quickly put on a smile and swept away all the displeasure on his face. Just then, an extremely pleasing zither tune that seemed to be able to cleanse one's soul rang out. The sound of the zither was like flowing water from a high mountain, slowly flowing into one's heart. The noisy crowd quietened down in an instant. The sound of a piano? Where did the zither sound come from? The honored guests kept quiet and looked around, trying to find the source of the sound. No one saw it. On the main seat, Yin family's master's face turned slightly black. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she leaned back on the chair as though it had nothing to do with her. A good show is coming? Let's silently watch the show. Yan Xiaoyi was extremely excited. Chapter 2546. The sound of the zither continued. Even those who did not understand music were mesmerized by it. Just as the sound of the zither reached its clearest point, a lithe figure wrapped in a white muslin dance dress walked over gracefully. She danced gracefully. Her slender arms were raised high, and the white muslin danced with the rhythm of the dance. The sound of the zither and the dance. One had to admit that it was indeed a visual and auditory pleasure. Gradually the sound of the zither came to an end. The graceful dance of the lady became more and more gentle. When the last string of notes fell, the woman spun rapidly and stood firmly in the most graceful posture. She faced Yin Qinghao and bowed. East Below Continent's Lan Ling Nuo respectfully wishes Lord Sect Master good fortune as vast as the East Sea and longevity as long as the South Mountain. A smile hung on Yin Qinghao's lips. His brows were slightly furrowed. It was obvious that he was very resistant to this lady's congratulations. He immediately looked at the first row of seats for distinguished guests. The few people in that row were all looking at the graceful lady who was kneeling in the middle of the stage. They all looked calm and fearless as if they were watching a good show. He really could not guess what they were thinking. However, the current situation. He really had no way of forcefully chasing the woman away like he had done before. Good. There was a burst of applause. Everyone was attracted by the dance and the sound of the zither. Those who did not know what was going on could not help but be tempted when they saw the beautiful lady in the white muslin dance dress in the middle of the stage. Thank you, Princess of the East Continent, for your graceful dance. That's great. Yin Qinghao could only go along with the crowd's compliments. I can't possibly offer you a dance to celebrate your birthday, right? Why did you have to chase her out? After all, she was the Princess of the East Continent. Lan Ling Nuo smiled faintly and had a coquettish appearance. My daughter is untalented and has shown my incompetence. It's good that Lord Sect Master likes it. Ah, Princess of the East Continent's dance is so moving. How could it be a show? Who was the person playing the zither just now? The sound of the zither has the elegance of a small bridge over a flowing river, as well as the tranquility of a mountain spring. It fits perfectly with Princess Donglan's dance. It's simply refreshing. Yuan Zhan looked at Lan Ling Nuo and clapped his hands. He naturally knew that there were many conflicts between Lan Ling Nuo and Yi Luo. Just before the birthday banquet started, he had heard many people talking about the friction between Yi Luo and the two princesses at the entrance of the Qinghua clan mansion. He also heard that Lan Ling Nuo had been asked by Yin Yanxiu to leave the Qinghua sect. Now Lan Ling Nuo appeared here again. There must be a reason. They wanted to deal with Yi Luo and cause him trouble. Yuan Zhan didn't care that the girl was just a teenage girl. He had to work with her no matter what. At this moment he praised Lan Ling Nua without holding back. Lan Ling Nua had obviously put in a lot of effort for this dance. The humiliation of being chased out by Yin Yanxiu had already disappeared. She was dressed in a white muslin dance dress. Her makeup was exquisite, and her eyes were full of charm. Every smile and frown had a seductive charm to it. General Zhan definitely knows the person playing the zither, Lan Ling Nua replied sweetly. Yuan Zhan raised his eyebrows and looked very interested. Oh, who is it? Quick, summon it. Let me take a look. Lan Ling Nua bowed slightly. Her posture was alluring. Chapter 2547. Why is she here again? When Yen Xiaoyi saw Lan Ling Nua's face clearly, she frowned unhappily. Just how thick-skinned was this woman? Just now Yin Yanxiu had personally kicked him out. To think that he still had the cheek to stir up trouble here. She was dressed so flirtatiously and danced so seductively. Her whole body was full of a foxy charm. Was she here to dance or to seduce a man? Yiqing Luo wasn't surprised at all. From the moment she was chased out of Qingyue sect, I knew that she would use another method to come back. Lan Ling Nua wasn't someone who gave up so easily. Especially since this concerned her reputation as the #1 beauty of the East Wave continent. It also concerned her reputation as the East Wave County Lord. How could a proud person like her tolerate being chased out of the Qinyu sect? It's really like the old saying, a shameless person is invincible. Yen Xiaoyi snorted disdainfully. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. The more despicable things are yet to come, let's slowly watch the show. Yiqing Luo's words had just landed. Soon after, a deep laughter came from the entrance of the hall. Shortly after, a slightly plump middle-aged man who wasn't tall walked in. The man wore a bright yellow dragon robe and a golden crown on his head. His hands were behind his back and he had an extraordinary bearing. The moment he walked in, the people around him rose to their feet and cupped their fists at him. Sovereign Beilan. This person was the current monarch of the Northern Tide continent, Xia Lingling's uncle, Xia Ji. Although the royal family status wasn't as high as the Qinyu sect, however, he was still the current emperor. Out of courtesy, Yin Qinghao still stood up and went forward to welcome him. Xia Ji's face was full of smiles. Sect Master, happy birthday. You won't blame me for coming late, right? Yin Qinghao shook his head with a smile and invited Xia Ji to take a seat. It's an honor for Qinyu clan to come despite your busy schedule. This emperor has specially prepared a big gift for Sect Master's birthday. I hope Sect Master will like it. Xia Ji sat down naturally. His pair of seemingly gentle but actually shrewd eyes swept across the people sitting in the first row. Then he said, Lin Ling, bring it here. At the entrance of the lobby, a slender figure quickly walked in. The girl was wearing a light yellow brocade dress and holding a zither in her hand. She slowly walked to Lan Ling Nua's side and bowed slightly. Junior Xia Lingling wishes Uncle Sect Leader a long life. Yen Xiaoyi, who was sitting in the first row, opened her eyes wide. *CK. She's also here. Calm down. Yiqing Luo shot a glance at her and waved her hand. The both of them had invited Sovereign Beilan over, so no matter how out of line they are, Sovereign has to give the royal family some face. She knew it from the beginning. Xia Lingling would definitely beg Lord Beilan to stand up for her. These two people are here. I'm afraid you won't be able to stay out of this show. Jun Qingwu glanced at the two people with disdain. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. If one comes, I'll kill one. If two come, I'll kill both. In the field, Xia Lingling carried her guqin and walked to Lan Ling Nua's side. This meant that the person who had been playing the zither was Xia Lingling. He didn't expect this 12-year-old little princess to be so skilled in the zither. Everyone was full of praises for this little princess. Of course, there were quite a number of people who kept praising Xia Lingling on account of Xia Ji's presence. Xia Lingling placed the zither by her feet and with a move of her palm, a medicine bottle appeared in her palm. Chapter 2548. Xia Lingling's palms were fair. The jade porcelain medicine bottle in her palm exuded a sparkling and translucent velvet light. Just that bottle alone was enough to make those VIPs unable to shift their gazes away. That is a moonlight porcelain bottle, right? Using such a rare bottle to store pills. What kind of top-grade pills are those? In order to celebrate Sovereign's birthday, Lord Beilan is so considerate to specially invite a Grandmaster Alchemist. What pill is in the moonlight porcelain bottle? The fiery gazes from the VIPs made Xia Lingling feel extremely satisfied. All the humiliation she had suffered in Yiqing Luo's hands had been thrown to the back of her head. She raised her head proudly and raised the bottle in her hand even higher. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes. Her gaze was fixated on the bottle in Xia Lingling's hands. Moonlight porcelain. She had heard of this kind of bottle. It could be said that as a grandmaster, there was no one who had not heard of this bottle. Moonlight porcelain was carved from that piece of jade which had absorbed the essence of the sun and moon for thousands of years. That piece of jade was extremely huge. It occupied 1/3 of the mountain top. The entire piece of jade was emitting the essence of the sun and moon. A small piece the size of a palm. There were countless of people who had racked their brains to get it. But till now, there were very few who could reach the top of the Jade Mountain and get the moonlight porcelain. One must know that the distance between the Jade Mountain and the Chaos Slits was relatively close. If one was not careful, there was a possibility of falling into the Chaos Slits and going to another parallel plane, then dying in the chaos. Moreover, the Jade Mountain was filled with jade used for carving and refining weapons. Every piece of jade had a certain amount of heaven and earth's spiritual qi. Naturally, it attracted many magical beasts to settle down here. The magical beasts treated the Jade Mountain as their territory. If anyone wanted to head to the Jade Mountain to excavate the jade, they would have to battle with numerous magical beasts. The higher up, the higher the grade of the magical beast. Those who could climb up to the top of the Jade Mountain were few and far between. Currently, in the entire Nirvana realm, only the jade seals of every monarch and the jade seals of the 4 great sect leaders were made of moonlight porcelain. Some large families also had a few pieces of moonlight porcelain ornaments. The moonlight porcelain was the essence of the sun and the moon that had existed for thousands of years, and it contained a lot of spiritual qi. Carry it as an accessory. It could strengthen the body, transform the body, and remove poisonous substances from the body. In particular, the moonlight porcelain was carved into a medicine bottle. Nourishing medicine with jade. This pill could be sealed for at least 10 to 20 years without losing the slightest bit of its effects. They even brought out the moonlight porcelain medicine bottle. The Northern Wave Imperial family is really going all out. Jun Qingwu sneered beside her ear, "Little Qing Luo, look at how far you've forced the royal family." Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders, expressing her innocence. "I won't take the blame for this, I didn't do anything." She had no interest in dealing with these scum. Yen Xiaoyi rested her chin on her hand. The moonlight porcelain bottle has already been taken out. Even if Sovereign doesn't want to interact with the imperial family, I'm afraid there's no other way. What the imperial family wants is this effect. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. Xia Lingling was chased out by the young matriarch of Qinyu sect personally. This matter has a huge impact on the imperial family's reputation. In order to regain their reputation, the imperial family will not let go of this chance to express their goodwill to Qinyu sect. So the Northern Wave monarch Xia Ji personally brought Xia Lingling over. Chapter 2549. As expected, when Xia Lingling raised the moonlight porcelain bottle, Yin Qinghao saw it. Yin Qinghao's brows furrowed even tighter. Subconsciously he turned to look at Gui Wu, attempting to sense Gui Wu's opinion from him. But Gui Wu sat there coldly and indifferently, not even bothering to lift his eyelids. Cough cough. Yin Qinghao coughed lightly as his face was filled with a joyful smile. "Thank you, Northlan monarch." Xia Ji walked directly to the first row and sat down. Gui Wu was next to Yiqing Luo, then Zhou Mo and Kitty Li. There were a few empty seats in the middle, which was where Xia Ji sat. Yiqing Luo sensed that when Xia Ji sat down, his line of sight was faintly discernible as it swept past her face. That gaze was obviously filled with a cold, murderous intent. TSK. Was he trying to stand up for his beloved niece? Yiqing Luo raised her brows as her lips curled into a meaningful smile. Xia Lingling was filled with complacency after receiving all kinds of attention. Like a rooster who had won the battle, she raised her head high, incomparably arrogant. She gained confidence as she continued. "This medicinal pill is called the Heaven-Returning Serene Pill, refined from a stalk of heaven-returning serene grass which only appears once every 1,000 years. After taking it, it can raise the profound energy and aid in breaking through to the profound grade." Heaven-Returning Serene Pill. After the name of this medicinal pill came out from Xia Lingling's mouth, the entire banquet was in an uproar. It was actually the Heaven-Returning Serene Pill. The Northlan royal family's gift was actually the rare Heaven-Returning Serene Pill. No wonder they used the moonlight porcelain bottle to store the medicinal pill. Only this kind of pill, which could not be any more precious, was worthy of a superior medicine like the moonlight porcelain bottle. Even for Yin Qinghao, after hearing the medicinal pill's name, the expression on his face couldn't help but show some emotion. To any cultivator, the heaven-returning serene pill was a precious item which they would risk their lives to get. Yin Qinghao was the sovereign of Qinghua sect. In actual profound grade, he had already reached the sky profound grade. However, he had only just touched the barrier of the sky profound realm. If he had the heaven-returning nether pill, he would definitely be able to truly become a profound practitioner of the sky profound realm. Ah! Thank you, Monarch Northwave. Thank you, Little County Princess. Yin Qinghao waved his hand. Little County Princess, East Wave County Princess, please take a seat. Lan Ling Nua, who was left out in the cold but didn't dare to complain, finally heaved a sigh of relief when she heard Yin Qinghao finally call out her name. Xia Lingling was extremely pleased with herself. She placed the moonlight porcelain bottle in the hands of the steward who had come to receive the congratulatory gift. Then she raised her head and puffed out her chest. She turned around arrogantly and walked towards Sovereign Beilan. Lan Ling Nua, who was about to leave, paused. The zither at his feet fell to the ground with a thud. Xia Lingling didn't seem to hear it and continued walking forward. Lan Ling Nua bit her lower lip and took a deep breath. She bent down and hugged the zither in her arms. Then she immediately caught up with Xia Lingling. He followed behind Xia Lingling. Lan Ling Nua was so angry that she almost crushed her silver teeth from gritting them. She naturally knew that she looked just like Xia Lingling's servant girl. However, Sovereign Beilan was here. The reason why she could be here was also because of Sovereign Beilan. No matter how angry she was, she could only forcefully suppress the resentment in her heart and maintain a superficial relationship with Xia Lingling. She followed Xia Lingling and sat beside Xia Ji. She put the zither aside. Her thin dance dress revealed her fair and smooth neck. Chapter 2550. Lan Ling Nua was used to making use of her appearance. She wouldn't understand the meaning behind Xia Ji's eyes. She sneered a few times in her heart, despising Xia Ji for trying to rob the cradle. She and Xia Lingling were sisters. He was already Xia Lingling's uncle. He actually had such dirty thoughts towards her. However, Lan Ling Nua didn't show it on her face. It was as if she didn't notice the way Xia Ji looked at her. With a pure and innocent look, she whispered something to Xia Lingling. Because of these two people's dance, song and gifts, the atmosphere of the birthday banquet also returned to normal. Many young misses of various forces also began to perform. For a moment there was singing and dancing and laughter. Most of these heiresses were here for Yin Yanxiu. Yin Yanxiu was 26 years old this year. But he hadn't married yet. Yin Yanxiu was the young sect master of Qinghua sect, and also the future sect master of Qinghua sect. If she could become Yin Yanxiu's legal wife, she would be the future sect master's wife. Countless unmarried young misses tried their best to get a look from Yin Yanxiu. However, perhaps Lan Ling Nua's dance was too beautiful. Perhaps Xia Lingling's song was too pleasant to the ear. Yin Yanxiu didn't show much interest. They all clapped and praised together with the crowd. After a long time, everyone was a little tired of the aesthetic. As a result, many people from different forces began to think of ways to establish relationships with them. The Beilan royal family was in the limelight just now. Many people from various forces came forward and asked about the origin of the heaven-restoring serene pill. And many people from various forces asked in a roundabout way whether the Beilan royal family had any heaven-restoring serene pills left. Xia Lingling was the one who presented the pill. Being flattered by so many people, it was inevitable that her childish nature was revealed. She proudly hugged Xia Ji's arm and said with a smile, "All this is the credit of Uncle Monarch. Uncle Monarch has been arranging for Uncle Sect Master's birthday banquet since a month ago. Monarch Beilan is really considerate. It is said that Monarch Beilan and the Sect Master of Qinghua sect have always been on good terms and are like brothers." It is indeed so. All kinds of praises and flattery greatly satisfied the vanity of the Northern Wave Imperial family. Right at this moment, an astonished voice sounded out. "The heaven-returning nether pill? Is it a pill refined from the returning heaven-origin serene grass?" This voice was too abrupt. Many honored guests looked over. Prime Minister Sun of the East Water Continent walked toward them with a shocked expression. "Of course." Xia Lingling raised her head proudly. "Uncle Jun spent a lot of effort to get that returning heaven yuan serene grass." Prime Minister Sun's body shook violently. "Returning heaven yuan serene grass. the heaven-returning origin serene grass that he had bid for in the Southern Waves continent for 7 million gold coins? He had always thought, the returning heaven yuan serene grass was snatched away by Yiqing Luo and that bunch of sluts. Unexpectedly, it was in the hands of the monarch of the Northern Wave continent. Could it be that Monarch Beilan had already planned this from the start? She had long decided to let him be entangled with the Heavenly Academy students and take back the Tianyuan serene grass, and shifted the blame to the Heavenly Academy students. Not only did he remove his suspicion, he even got the returning Heaven Yuan serene grass he had been schemed against. This thought made Prime Minister Sun feel even more hatred the more he thought about it. Yiqing Luo, Monarch Beilan and the rest were seated on the first row. Naturally, he saw Prime Minister Sun's expression. Chapter 2551. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders, expressing that she didn't understand. Heaven recovering primordial serene grass, one stalk every 1,000 years. Which meant that there would only be one stalk of this heaven recovering primordial serene grass. Since the treasure pavilion dared to bring it out for auction, it was definitely not fake. Moreover, she had indeed refined the heaven recovering primordial serene pill to awaken Qi and Qi Yen. This was enough to prove the authenticity of the heaven recovering primordial serene grass. The heaven recovering primordial serene grass that she had gotten was real. The heaven recovering primordial serene grass in Sovereign Beilan's hands? That wasn't right. If it was fake, why would Sovereign Beilan present it as a birthday gift to Sovereign of Qinyu sect? Wasn't this slapping his own face? But, no matter if the heaven recovering primordial serene grass was real or fake, Prime Minister Sun had probably pushed the revenge of snatching the heaven recovering primordial serene grass onto Sovereign Beilan. He probably thought that the heaven recovering primordial serene grass was secretly snatched away by someone from North Continent and then shifted the blame to Heavenly Academy. This wasn't too bad. At least Sovereign Beilan had attracted a wave of hatred from them. Needless to say, Yiqing Luo had overestimated Prime Minister Sunday. Back then Prime Minister Sun had suffered such a huge loss in South Continent. In the end it didn't affect them at all. Even his shadow didn't dare to appear. This was enough to prove that this Prime Minister Sun was someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Ever since Prime Minister Sun returned to East Continent, his days had become more and more difficult. In order to obtain the heaven recovering primordial serene grass, he had almost used up all his assets. 7 million gold coins, but he didn't get anything. And he was even crippled by 3 grades. No matter how hard he tried to cultivate. His profound grade seemed to have stopped at Earth profound 6th grade and couldn't be raised no matter what. Now seeing Sovereign Beilan brazenly presenting a gift to Sovereign of Qinyu sect, that gift was the heaven recovering primordial serene grass which he snatched from him. His stomach was filled with anger as though it was going to swallow him whole. But, when he met Sovereign Beilan's serene gaze, he wanted to vent his anger but it seemed to be blocked by something. Does Prime Minister East Mist have something to say? Xiaji smiled amiably and his eyes were very gentle. But Prime Minister Sun only felt that Sovereign Beilan was threatening him. A chill ran down his spine. His tense body was so stiff that it was hard for him to move. He clenched his fists tightly, the corner of his lips twitching bit by bit as he shook his head. The heaven-returning origin nether pill is a pill that countless profound practitioners in the world wish to possess. I just yearn for it very much, so I'm just asking. This was the Northern Wave continent. Monarch Beilan's territory. He had barely managed to gain a foothold in the Eastern continent. How would he dare to argue with Sovereign Beilan in his territory? Hearing Prime Minister Sun's answer, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing. She smiled and put a hand on Yan Xiaoyi's shoulder. This Prime Minister Sun is really a coward. He deserves to exhaust all his assets and pay for others. At this moment, Xia Lingling heard Prime Minister Sun's words. He felt even more proud of himself. Even the royal family members of the East Continent were envious of the North Continent. She could even trample Lan Ling Nua beneath her feet. Just as he was feeling pleased with himself, he heard an extremely soft sneer. She immediately looked towards the direction of the voice, but caught a glimpse of Yiqing Luo's light smile. It seemed like disdain, like ridicule. That smile made Xia Lingling's brain seem to explode with a boom. Earlier at the entrance of the sect's residence, the humiliation she had suffered, the humiliation of being pointed at. At this instance, her brain kept on churning. Chapter 2552. Swoosh, 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 countless pairs of eyes were gathered on him. The VIPs were also attracted by Xia Lingling's words. That's right. This Miss Yi was so close with Gui Wu. And she was treated as a VIP by the patriarch. But they didn't see Yi Qing Luo presenting any gifts to the patriarch? That row of 10 over people. Only Gui Wu alone had presented a birthday gift. But Gui Wu was standing right here. It didn't matter whether he presented a gift or not. His presence here was a huge gift. But who was Yi Luo? No matter how mysterious he was, he couldn't be compared to Gui Wu, right? Gui Wu had presented a birthday gift. Yi Luo should have presented a gift no matter what. The VIPs were in a heated discussion as they were all curious about what gift Yi Qing Luo had prepared for Yin Qinghao. But with the heaven recovering serene pill, no matter what Yi Qing Luo presented, it probably wouldn't be able to surpass the heaven recovering serene pill. Yin Qinghao coughed lightly and was about to dissuade her. What status did Yi Luo have? He indeed didn't understand. But he knew that Yi Luo was absolutely not an ordinary person. His 50th birthday, it wasn't important whether to present a gift or not. The important thing was, because Yi Luo had come to attend his birthday banquet, only Gui Wu would come. Gui Wu was the best gift that Yi Luo had given him. Only Yin Qinghao didn't have the chance to say this out. But he was stopped by a pair of slender eyes. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as she blinked at Yin Qinghao, as though she was transmitting some kind of message to him. Yin Qinghao stiffened as he understood the deep meaning behind Yi Qing Luo's eyes. She asked him not to show himself. This lady? What was she trying to do? Why isn't Miss Yi saying anything? Could it be that you didn't prepare any gift at all? Xia Lingling stood up complacently as she finally had the pleasure of stepping on Yi Qing Luo's head. Lan Ling Nua lowered her voice as she tugged Xia Lingling's sleeve. Lingling, Miss Yi specially followed this 3,000 Peach Blossom group leader to attend Patriarch's birthday banquet. How could she possibly not bring any gift? After a pause, she revealed an understanding smile. Moreover, with the Northern Wave Imperial family's gift of the heaven-returning nether pill, how could Miss Ye's gift be presentable? Just one sentence had demoted Yi Qing Luo to intentionally riding on Tao Tao's momentum to attend the sovereign's birthday banquet. Everyone present was a distinguished guest. Naturally they would think so. To think that a young lass would resort to such underhanded methods to freeload into the Grandmaster's birthday banquet. His goal was nothing more than to be able to squeeze into the eyes of those large forces, or to be able to hook up with a few rich and powerful suitors. Although, this Miss Yi had a close relationship with the ghost martial artist. And he seemed to have a close relationship with the representative of the Heavenly Academy. However, it was hard to say whether he had done some shady business to gain the favor of those big shots. Hearing Lan Ling Nua's praise and flattery, Xia Lingling felt even more pleased. The gaze he shot towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with even more ridicule and ridicule. This little slut actually dared to incite Yin Yanxiu to chase her out of the Qinyu sect in front of everyone. She was the most favored little princess of the royal family. What was Yin Yanxiu? Now, hadn't she still swaggered into the birthday banquet? Didn't Yin Yanxiu still have to receive her with a smiling face? Their royal family had gifted such a precious pill like the heaven-returning nether pill. Wouldn't the Qinyu sect be kneeling down and begging for mercy? Begging for her forgiveness for their unreasonable actions earlier? Then she would be able to push all the winds towards Yi Luo. It was that slut who instigated discord between the royal family and the Qinyu sect. In order to save the royal family, the Qinyu sect would definitely chase that slut Yi Luo out in front of everyone. Chapter 2553. Whenever he thought of that bastard Yi Luo being chased out by the Qinyu clan in the most humiliating way possible, he would feel a chill run down his spine. Xia Lingling felt delighted and carefree. Uncle Jun is really thoughtful. He knew that it was the patriarch's birthday and started preparing a month in advance. Xia Lingling hugged Xia Ji's arm intimately and flattered him proudly. I don't want someone to take advantage of other people's power to attend the birthday party without preparing a birthday gift. Xia Ji smiled amiably and touched Xia Lingling's head. But he didn't say anything. He agreed with Xia Lingling's words. The surrounding honored guests pointed at them and discussed animatedly. That's right, the North Wave monarch was a busy man, but when he found out about the sect master's birthday celebration, he prepared a birthday gift for her a month in advance. This showed that he truly placed the sect master in his heart. Compared to that little girl, he wanted to freeload on a birthday banquet, but he didn't even prepare a birthday gift. Furthermore, he even dared to strut around in the sect master's territory and behave atrociously. Many VIPs recalled the scene of Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua arguing with Yi Qing Luo at the entrance not long ago. In the end, the two princesses were chased out of the Qingyue clan. The crowd of distinguished guests started to despise Yi Qing Luo even more. However, he had forgotten that it was Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua who had provoked him from the beginning. Sister, how could those people say that about you? Kitty wants to tear their mouths apart. Kitty Li struggled in Zomo's arms. She was so angry that her eyes were red, and her little claws kept flailing. Zomo's large palm wrapped around Kitty Li's claws as he hugged her tightly. Don't be rash, can't you see that Xiaoqing Luo isn't angry at all? Big sis isn't angry but Kitty is. Kitty Li pouted, her voice hoarse from anger. Does Qing Luo look like someone who would allow others to bully her? Yan Xiaoyi leaned into Xiao Jin's arms and raised her eyelids disapprovingly. She opened her mouth to take the peeled grapes that Xiao Jin handed over. Everyone shook their heads. Doesn't look like it. Kitty Li calmed down, but her eyes were still filled with anger when she looked at the people around her. It was as if he couldn't wait to kill all those who had insulted his sister with his eyes. Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua were still trying their best to defame Yi Qing Luo. They were determined to make the people from Qinyu clan chase Yi Qing Luo out in front of everyone, so as to dispel the hatred in their hearts. In the beginning there were many distinguished guests. He was afraid that Gui Wu was here, so he didn't dare to curry favor with monarch Beilan. After all, Yi Qing Luo and Gui Wu had arrived at the birthday banquet together. Gui Wu also alighted from Yi Qing Luo's carriage. However, Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua had quarreled to such an extent. Almost half of the people present were pointing fingers at Yi Qing Luo, as their words were filled with endless contempt and ridicule. Gui Wu did not say a single word. Even the sect master and young sect master who stood on Yi Qing Luo's side didn't open their mouths to stop her. Apparently he had no intention to help Yi Qing Luo. As a result, many people became more courageous. Very quickly, other than the tens of families who were wise to protect themselves and didn't want to offend anyone, the other VIPs all expressed their disdain towards Yi Qing Luo. Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua looked at each other. His face was filled with arrogance and pride. Hey! A chuckle rang softly in the main hall. It was obviously a chuckle, but it easily suppressed everyone's soft discussions. Chapter 2554. Her action of getting up was extremely slow, as though she was extremely lazy. Her fiery red long dress, along with her action of getting up, was like a raging flame, pouring down in torrents. That elegant and ordinary face at this moment looked extremely enchanting. Her pink lips rose slightly as she gave off a low chuckle. She originally wanted to be a bystander, allowing the two of them to show off. But those two insisted on dragging her into the water. Then she couldn't be blamed for not giving face to the North Wave royal family. After all, this was Xia Lingling who put her face in front of her, allowing her to slap it. What are you trying to do? Trying to use brute force? Xia Lingling saw Yi Qing Luo's smile and felt goosebumps all over her body. Lan Ling Nua's heart tightened. Could it be that this slut still had some tricks up her sleeves? No. Even if she had prepared a birthday gift. No matter what, it absolutely couldn't be compared to Yi Qing Huitian's serene pill. Thinking of this, Lan Ling Nua immediately held Xia Lingling's hand as she pursed her red lips. Yi Luo you. Mind the occasion. This is Sovereign's birthday banquet. Do you still want to make a move on us in front of everyone? Make a move? The VIPs looked at Lan Ling Nua in puzzlement. Xia Lingling had also mentioned the word brute force earlier. Could it be? Did this Yi Luo often make a move on the two continents princess? Seeing that the VIPs had already guessed in the direction that they were leading, Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua's eyes surfaced a cold smile. As expected, Xia Ji's expression darkened as he lowered his head to look at Xia Lingling. Lingling? You're saying that young lady called Yi Luo had made a move on you? Xia Lingling was the North Wave royal family's most pampered little princess. There was actually someone who dared to make a move on her? Wasn't this provoking the royal family's prestige? Xia Lingling immediately lowered her head as she put on an aggrieved look. Uncle Monarch, it's Lingling's skills that are not good enough. Lingling is not her match. Presumptuous. Xia Ji slammed the table as his expression darkened. How dare you make a move on my Lingling, how dare you? His gaze turned sharp as he stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. Young lady, I want to know, why did you make a move on the North Wave continent's little princess? The entire birthday banquet fell into a deathly silence. No one would speak at this critical juncture. Even Yin Qinghao was staring blankly at Yi Qing Luo, not knowing what he was thinking about. As the birthday boy, Yin Qinghao didn't say anything. The others naturally wouldn't say anything either. Make a move? Yi Qing Luo smiled lazily with an indifferent attitude. If I make a move on you, will the North Lawn Monarch just stand there and let me hit you, or will he retaliate? How dare you? Xia Ji had not expected that he had already unleashed his overlord's prestige, but Yi Qing Luo actually looked down on him. The dignity of a sovereign caused Xia Ji to be filled with rage. Are you declaring war on the Northern Wave continent? No. Yi Qing Luo raised a finger and shook it. I'm merely stating the facts. Following that, she pointed towards Xia Lingling. She hit me so I retaliate. She can't beat me so she can only take a beating. This is very normal, isn't it? Saying that, she shrugged her shoulders as she put on a bored look. Or could it be that the dignified North Lawn Monarch wanted to bully a weak lady like me, but because you're a trash, you got beaten up instead and even went to complain? Oh, if little princess is really a trash to this extent, then I have nothing else to say. You this. The word slut hadn't even left her mouth when Xia Lingling's wrist was suddenly grabbed. Chapter 2555. Don't panic. Lan Ling Nua warned in a low voice. Xia Lingling's eyes turned red as tears of humiliation started to well up. Yi Qing Luo actually dared to humiliate her in such an unbridled manner in front of her uncle monarch. Cough cough. Xia Ji was agitated by Yi Qing Luo's words as he coughed awkwardly. He really wanted to reply. His Ling Ling was a respectable princess. She was merely a student who didn't know her identity and had to rely on the 3,000 forces to attend the birthday banquet. It was her honor for Ling Ling to lay her hands on her. But in front of so many people, in front of so many influential people from various continents. No matter what, he couldn't show this as a matter of course. Although, Ling Ling's character is a little rash, but she is the Northern Continent's princess and I am the Northern Continent's monarch. You're so arrogant and disrespectful to me, are you looking down on the entire Northern Continent? Xia Ji's sharp eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo fiercely as he said every single word with great force. He wanted to stir up the various forces in the Northern Continent to feel disgusted towards Yi Qing Luo. He was the dignified Northern Continent's monarch, but was stepped on by a junior like this? Wasn't this blatantly stepping on their Northern Continent's head? Xia Ji's sinister gaze looked at the crowd and finally fell onto a certain spot. Over there sat Yuan Zhan. Ever since Xia Ji appeared, Yuan Zhan tried his best to hide his existence. Now his entire family in the Battle King's residence was under Xia Ji's control. He came to attend the birthday banquet in order to rebel against the imperial power. Now he was caught by Xia Ji on the spot. He naturally had a guilty conscience. He didn't expect Xia Ji to spot him who was hiding in the crowd. Looking at Xia Ji's slightly squinted eyes, that slightly plump face was filled with an amiable smile. It was very clear. How much murderous intent was hidden behind Xia Ji's smile. I heard General Battle King said that there's a lady called Yi Luo who also looks down on his Battle King's residence. I guess he's talking about Miss Yi? Xia Ji smiled amiably and when he asked, his tone was also very amiable. But Yuan Zhan heard the chill in his words. If it was in the past, Yuan Zhan wouldn't care about Xia Ji's threat at all. In front of him, even Xia Ji had to be courteous. But now that the warlord's mansion had lost its power, he had nothing to be proud of, hearing Xia Ji's question. He calmed himself down for a long time before he could suppress the raging anger in his chest. He said word by word, yes. Xia Ji looked at Yuan Zhan who looked like a stray dog in satisfaction as he sneered and looked at Yi Qing Luo. Miss Yi, this is Qinghua Sect's sovereign's birthday banquet. I don't want to be calculative with a young lady like you. How about this? Just apologize to Ling Ling and today's matter will be over. Ling Ling is kind-hearted so I'm sure she won't be calculative with you. Uncle Monarch? Xia Lingling looked happy and grateful. She hugged Xia Ji's arm and acted like a spoiled child. He even stuck out his tongue at Yi Qing Luo in a proud and provocative manner. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh when she heard Xia Ji talking to himself. Her laughter grew louder and louder. Finally he burst out laughing. She propped one hand on the table and covered her stomach with the other. Her smile was extremely devilish and enchanting. The arrogance on Xia Ji's face slowly stiffened. The surrounding guests were shocked by Yi Qing Luo's laughter as they turned silent. They seemed to be extremely puzzled. At this juncture, Chapter 2556. Northlan Monarch, you can't slander me. How could I not put the Northlan continent in my eyes? Yiqing Luo giggled as her fine black hair scattered over her shoulders. Along with her laughter, it swayed wantonly. Everyone's naked gaze made Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua gritted their teeth. Especially Lan Ling Nua, her little face which was hidden in the dark was twisted into a ball. Yiluo, that slut. She obviously looked ordinary, but she seduced so many men to fall for her. Stroking her hair coquettishly, did she really think that all men would fall for her tricks? She was just a trash who didn't have any looks or figure. But no matter how jealous she was, she absolutely could not show it. She was the East Lan princess. She must maintain the bearing and prestige of the East Lan princess. Lan Ling Nua suppressed her anger. As for Xia Ji, after hearing Yiqing Luo's reply, he gave a satisfied smile. This lady knew how to adapt to circumstances. She knew not to be enemies with the Northlan continent. Looking at Yiqing Luo's enchanting temperament and graceful figure, Xia Ji's entire body was covered with a nameless flame. The gaze which he looked at Yiqing Luo became more and more passionate. Yiqing Luo only felt a nauseous feeling surging up her heart. That pair of smiling eyes suddenly became sharp at this moment. Her gaze was like a torch, and the cold smile on her lips made one feel terrified. I merely didn't put you in my eyes. Every word was enunciated extremely clearly. The smile on Xia Ji's face froze bit by bit. Yiqing Luo's brows curved, but there wasn't a hint of a smile in her eyes. Since when did Northlan Monarch represent the entire Northlan continent? You. Xia Ji was almost angered to death by Yiqing Luo's words as his face flushed red. Yiqing Luo's words were totally ridiculing him for overestimating his own ability. Ridiculing him for representing the Northlan continent in front of Qinyu sect and Yin Qinghao. If these words were to be spread out, the various forces in the Northlan continent would absolutely not tolerate him. His position as the monarch might not be stable at all. Furthermore, your little princess is such a wastrel. She wants to take advantage of her power to bully others, but she doesn't have the strength to do so. How can I be blamed for this? Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders disapprovingly and even rolled her eyes at Xia Ji. But I'm a little curious. Little Region Lord is so arrogant and despotic in Qinyu City, and every single word and sentence doesn't stray away from her status as a Region Lord. Could it be that Monarch Beilan had taught Little Region Lord something, making Little Region Lord think that, as a member of the royal family, she could go against the heavens and earth? Xia Ji's face instantly turned livid. Yiqing Luo's words were all ridiculing the Northern Wave's royal family. They even wanted to use this matter to drive a wedge between the royal family and the other powers of the Northern Wave's continent. You're talking nonsense. Xia Lingling didn't expect that everything would go according to her expectations. On the contrary, it was the North Wave royal family who were forced by Yiqing Luo till they had no way to resist. Xia Lingling was so infuriated that her cheeks turned red as she stared at Yiqing Luo furiously. This princess is a member of the royal family, and every action and action represents the royal family's reputation. How could this princess be as arrogant and despotic as you said? You're slandering me. Chapter 2557. Xia Lingling's complaint allowed Xia Ji to find a point to refute. Xia Ji's face immediately darkened and he shouted angrily, I saw that you are young, so I wanted to let you off. I didn't expect that you would even try to discredit the imperial family. What is your purpose in coming to the Northern Tide continent? What are you trying to do? Faced with the accusations of the Xia family, Yiqing Luo expressed that she didn't mind at all. It was rare for Xia Lingling to be smart. She knew that in this way she would bite back at her. Xia Ji was very cooperative. Next, it should be Yuan Zhan's turn to continue the show. She also didn't remember interrupting the royal family's carefully planned show. Since the people of the Northern Wave imperial family wanted to walk further and further down the path of courting death, she naturally wouldn't stop them. If they were going to tear each other apart, then they might as well tear each other to their heart's content. After tearing them apart, they would know what despair was. That was the most memorable experience. As expected, the next moment, Yuan Zhan stood up and stared at Yiqing Luo as though he was looking at the enemy who killed his father. This time, Yuan Zhan did not speak because of Xia Ji's coercion. His words were filled with resentment and accusation. She was definitely sent by another continent to destroy the foundation of our Northern Wave continent. Someone wants to attack the Northern Wave continent. They actually used such despicable methods. Yuan Zhan had already guessed it a long time ago. Yi Luo arrived at the northern wave continent. He pressed forward step by step. His Battle King's mansion was reduced to such a state. He was also secretly making a move against the Miao Gu family. Miao Yixiong didn't dare to admit it in public, so Yi Qing Luo must have something on him. However, he knew very well that Yi Luo, that bastard, would never spare the Miao tribe. Now, Yi Luo's target was the imperial family. Yi Luo was definitely a spy from another country. They wanted to use this method to slowly devour the main forces of the northern wave continent, and then annihilate them in one fell swoop. Sovereign Bei Lan and Warlord General's words caused all the distinguished guests present to gasp. All of them looked at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. They naturally understood the deeper meaning behind the words of the people from the Northern Wave imperial family. This girl, a spy from another country? Did they want to invade the Northern Wave continent? Then, wouldn't it be their continent's turn next? When the guests thought of this, their faces turned pale. Seeing the VIPs being led by their words to look at Yi Qing Luo with hatred. A hint of delight flashed across Xia Lingling's eyes. How dare he humiliate her? She would make sure that Yi Luo, that bastard, would lose his life and walk out of Qinghua City alive. It didn't matter if Yi Luo was a spy from another country. No matter what Yi Luo's identity was. As long as they made a big deal out of this, Yi Luo would die without a doubt. He would rather kill the wrong person than let the wrong one go. This was the only way to eliminate all future troubles. How dare you, Yi Luo? Hurry up and tell me the truth. What continent are you from? What is your identity? What is your purpose in coming to the Northern Wave continent? Xia Ji banged the table hard as he pointed at Yi Qing Luo, as though he was a criminal who had committed the most heinous crime. Today I will investigate this clearly in front of sect master and various powerhouses. I didn't expect you to be scheming to corrupt my imperial family and invade the Northern Wave continent. The group of people echoed each other. The person who was being criticized, on the other hand, was blowing his nails with a lazy and bored expression. Until Xia Ji stopped reprimanding. A few pairs of eyes were filled with hatred as they looked at her. Yi Qing Luo then leisurely shifted her gaze back. Chapter 2558. All the distinguished guests were speechless. This young lady really could infuriate someone to death the minute she opened her mouth. North Lan Monarch and North Lan Princess were complaining passionately. A group of people were pointing and discussing. In Yi Qing Luo's eyes, it was just a show. And it was a show that wasn't very interesting. This attitude, was she treating the few people from the North Lan royal family as monkeys watching a show? The few people from the North Lan royal family were stunned by Yi Qing Luo's reaction and had yet to regain their senses. Yi Qing Luo had already leisurely walked out from her seat. Her fiery red dress bloomed gracefully like a blazing rose, extremely dazzling. This redness dazzled many people's eyes. It also dyed Xia Lingling's eyes red. Yi Qing Luo flipped her palm and her slender fingertip was a delicate porcelain medicine bottle. She shook it and casually threw it into the air and caught it casually. This is my birthday gift to Qinyu Sect's sovereign. Medicine bottle? It was also a medicinal pill? Xia Lingling's scarlet eyes widened instantly. You're also giving medicinal pills? Sovereign uncle already has the heaven recovering serene pill. Why are you still giving medicinal pills? Lingling, now is not the time to argue about the birthday gift. Lan Ling Nua pulled Xia Lingling's arm as her brows were filled with vigilance and solemnity, then she looked towards Xia Ji. North Lan Monarch, no matter what, we must investigate Miss Yi Luo's real identity. We absolutely cannot allow anyone to attempt to destroy the peace of our 4 continents. Xia Lingling had a righteous and duty-bound attitude. Xia Ji nodded his head solemnly. What East Lan Princess said is right. Miss Ye's appearance and every single thing that Miss Yi had done is simply too suspicious. I feel that we should indeed investigate Miss Ye's identity. Saying that, Xia Ji didn't wait for the surrounding people's reaction. He had already raised his head and his eyes were like torches as he stared straight at Yin Qinghao. Sovereign, because of Miss Yi Luo's matter, it has affected Sovereign's birthday banquet. It's my fault. Now I will bring Miss Yi Luo back to the palace to carry out a strict investigation. He waved his hand and Yuan Zhan and a group of royal guards who popped out from nowhere, swarmed towards Yi Qing Luo. None of them were fools. Who wouldn't be able to tell that Monarch Bei Lan had planned this long ago, to bring Yi Qing Luo away from Qinghua clan. These royal guards had probably been waiting in the dark for a long time. He had been waiting for this moment to come out. Xia Ji looked at Yi Qing Luo who was surrounded by the royal guards as his lips curled into a smirk. Today's offense of disturbing the birthday banquet, I will personally come and repay you in the future. Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua were delighted. They quickly stood up and followed behind Xia Ji. They were about to leave in a carefree manner. A few screams could be heard. Xia Ji and the others just turned their heads. He was immediately pressed down by a few black shadows. Ah! Xia Lingling screamed. He was pinned to the ground by the black shadow. Lan Ling Nua was not spared either. The two women fell to the ground. Xia Ji reacted quickly. When the black shadow attacked, he quickly took a few steps back and avoided the collision with the black shadow. Bang bang bang. There were a few consecutive sounds of collisions and black shadows pounced over uniformly. Xia Ji stabilized his footsteps and saw a few royal guards lying on the ground in front of him. And there were two royal guards pressing down on Xia Lingling and Lan Ling Nua. The two women's screams were deafening. So much that Xia Ji's head started to hurt. Looking at the royal guards lying by his feet, each and every one of them were hugging their wounds, wailing in pain. Chapter 2559. Yiluo, how dare you? You dare to attack the guards of the royal family? Do you have a guilty conscience? Xia Ji's face was cold. Every word he said was full of anger. Oh, get lost. Get out of my way. Xia Lingling screamed in a shrill voice. Lan Ling Nua pushed the person on her away like crazy. Lowly dog. How dare you touch me? I'm going to kill you. The two women gritted their teeth and pushed the guards on top of them. With great difficulty they managed to get out from under the guards. However, the two women's clothes were disheveled from the struggle. Especially Lan Ling Nua. Her white gauze dress was torn into several pieces under the intense struggle. Her clothes were messy and her shoulders were half exposed. Her hair that was carefully tied up was scattered. She was simply charming to the extreme. Countless male guests' eyes were almost glued to Lan Ling Nua's delicate and fair skin. Even Xia Ji's eyes were fixed on Lan Ling Nua's half-exposed fair skin. Lan Ling Nua stood up while cursing. When she noticed the surrounding gazes, her face darkened instantly. She screamed and hugged herself. Xia Lingling heaved a sigh of relief. She quickly stood aside and tidied up her messy clothes. Fortunately, Lan Ling Nua, that coquettish fox, attracted everyone's attention. Swoosh! A green cannon covered Lan Ling Nua's body. Lan Ling Nua was so ashamed and angry that she was about to cry. She was covered by a wave of warmth. The robe that covered her body emitted a light and elegant fragrance. It was different from the sweaty smell that she had smelled on various men. She grabbed the robe with both hands, and her delicate body trembled slightly. Soon after, he raised his head in delight. What came into view was an extremely handsome face. His dark and deep eyes glanced at her indifferently and then quickly moved away. Lan Ling Nua's heart was beating rapidly. His eyes widened, revealing a look of ecstasy. Young master, she spoke in a hoarse voice and was so excited that she wanted to jump into the arms of the man in front of her. Wasn't the man in front of her Yin Yanxiu? The robe that covered her body was Yin Yanxiu's outer robe. It was Yin Yanxiu who appeared and saved her. Lan Ling Nua's heart pounded. Countless illusions exploded in his mind. Her lips curled up into an extremely twisted and excited smile. Young clan master. Thank you for saving Nu has no way to repay you, Princess Donglan. He blocked Lan Ling Nua's body with one hand. Yin Yanxiu avoided Lan Ling Nua and took a few steps back. His voice was cold and indifferent. I do not wish to attract any criticism that has nothing to do with my father's birthday banquet. He paused for a moment before his gaze landed on Lan Ling Nua, who had an awkward expression on her face. Since you have entered the Qingyue clan and are standing in the main hall of the birthday banquet, you are a guest of the Qingyue clan. If it was any other woman today, I would have helped her. You don't have to take it to heart and I don't need anything in return. With just a few simple sentences, he had completely severed his relationship with Lan Ling Nua. Lan Ling Nua's words of devote myself to him were stuck in her throat. She wrapped the robe tightly around her body. He gritted his teeth. No, she didn't believe it. Yin Yanxiu must have taken a fancy to her beauty and that was why he had helped her. He didn't admit it because he was shy. No man could escape from her peerless beauty. Chapter 2560. His attitude made the surrounding guests nod as if they were suddenly enlightened. Their faces were filled with ambiguous smiles. Yin Yanxiu's expression darkened slightly. His indifferent eyes flickered slightly. A trace of haze flashed past. However, Lanling Nua did not notice the change in Yin Yanxio's eyes. She saw that the surrounding guests had already started to treat her and Yin Yanxio as a couple. She was secretly pleased. As long as everyone thought that she was the woman that the young lord of Qinghua sect admired, then she would definitely become the future madam of Qinghua sect. With the young lord of Qinghua sect. The young lord of Qinghua sect that she had always yearned for could be thrown to the back of her mind. She listened to the surrounding people discussing the relationship between her and Yin Yanxio. Lanling Nua could not suppress the smile on her face. Bit by bit, she raised her head shyly and looked at him shyly. But Yin Yanxio's eyes did not look at her at all. Instead, he stared unblinkingly at Xiaji. It was as if he did not put her in his eyes at all. Lanling Nua clenched her fist and was about to open her mouth to attract Yin Yanxio's attention. She had many ways to make Yin Yanxio completely infatuated with her. However, at the moment when she was about to open her mouth, Yin Yanxio's cold voice sounded. Sovereign Beilan, Qinghua sect respects you as a sovereign and does not want to offend you. However, if you want to take away our guest, you have to ask if Qinghua sect is willing to let them go. He spoke calmly, enunciating each word clearly and calmly. No one could hear the emotion in his words. Xiaji frowned and released the majesty of a sovereign. His face darkened. Young lord, this person is a spy sent by another continent. As the sovereign Beilan, I have the right to investigate thoroughly. Yin Yanxio was fearless. He looked into Xiaji's eyes indifferently. This is just your speculation. There is no actual evidence. How can I let them go? He paused and his tone suddenly changed. His voice was sharp. Are you saying that if you suspect someone, you have to take that person away from Qinghua sect? If the guests of my Qinghua sect are allowed to be taken away by the imperial family, where do you think my Qinghua sect is? The powerful question made Xiaji's face turn as black as charcoal. He tensed up with anger. The bright yellow dragon robe wrapped tightly around the extra fat on his body. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought. The Qinghua sect was willing to do this for a woman. She made things difficult for him in public. It seemed that his niece was right. The Qinghua sect must have colluded with a spy from another country. A piercingly cold light flashed across Xiaji's eyes, and his voice was gloomy. So, young sect master insists on stopping it? The Qinghua sect has always upheld the principle of mutual respect. Since the North Wave monarch doesn't place the Qinghua sect in his eyes, then the Qinghua sect will not take a step back either. Yin Yanxio's attitude was very firm. He was not suppressed by Xiaji's aura at all. The Qinghua sect had already made their stance clear. Xiaji couldn't make a decision at the moment. If Yi Luo was forcibly taken away, the imperial family would definitely become enemies with the Qinghua sect. The Qinghua sect was one of the 4 major sections. The power of the imperial family might not be able to keep them in check. Moreover, it was very likely that the Qinghua sect had colluded with other continents. Xiaji was still deep in thought. Xia Lingling wasn't that patient, and she wouldn't consider anything other than her own interests. Chapter 2561. As a result, Xia Lingling directly rushed in front of Yin Yanxio and angrily accused him. Brother Xiao, have you also been bewitched by that vixen? If the Northern Wave's imperial family doesn't put the Qinghua sect in their eyes, why would they negotiate with you in such a polite manner? Yin Yanxio frowned, lowered his head, and glanced at Xia Lingling perfunctorily. Lingling. Xiaji's face darkened. He immediately stepped forward and wanted to grab Xia Lingling's arm to pull her back. However, he heard a sweet-sounding laugh spread over. At this critical juncture, in this kind of atmosphere, this laughter of joy and mockery was extremely obvious and eye-catching. Everyone's gaze followed the sound. The girl who was originally surrounded by the royal guards stepped on one of the guards. She had one arm around her chest and the other was holding the porcelain medicine bottle. The corners of her mouth curled up as a mocking laugh escaped from her mouth. It was clear and melodious. However, it also caused people to be shocked for no reason. Yi Luo. Xia Lingling's eyes were filled with hatred when she saw the girl. Yiqing Luo looked at Xia Lingling with a beaming face as she tilted her head and gave a lazy smile. Tisk? Little Region Lord represents the royal family, saying that the royal family doesn't. Don't put the Qinghua sect in their eyes, you really dare to say that? Xia Lingling's eyes flashed fiercely. You're a spy from another country. How dare you try to sow discord between the royal family and the Qinghua sect? Do you think we're all fools? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she asked smilingly, then your royal family are treating the Qinghua clan as fools and playing with them? What nonsense are you spouting? Xia Lingling couldn't wait to rush up and tear Yi Qing Luo's mouth apart. Do you want to know what pill is in this bottle in my hand? Yi Qing Luo changed the topic again as she shook the pill in the bottle. Xia Lingling gave a contemptuous glance at the porcelain bottle in Yi Qing Luo's hand. It was a medicine bottle carved from inferior porcelain. What kind of precious pill could it be? The pill in your hand has nothing to do with you being a spy from another country. Yi Luo, don't even think about stalling for time. Lan Ling Nua took the opportunity to speak. This also reminded Xia Lingling that Yi Qing Luo was planning to drag the time. Xia Lingling snorted coldly, this is the northern wave continent. Yi Luo, are you trying to buy time for your companions to save you? This is impossible. Yi Qing Luo was still that languid with a casual look. What a coincidence, the medicinal pill in my hands is exactly the heaven-returning serene pill. After the 5 words heaven-restoring yuan serene pill came out, the surroundings instantly fell into deathly silence. Even Xia Lingling was stunned for a moment. After coming to his senses, she suddenly burst into laughter. Ah! Yi Luo, even if you want to stall for time, you should at least find a proper excuse. You said that the pill in that broken bottle was a heaven-restoring nether pill? Ah! What a joke. Lan Ling Nua, who was at the side, also covered her mouth and laughed with a disdainful expression. Miss Yi, don't you know that the heaven-returning serene pill is refined from the heaven-returning serene grass? As for the heavenly primordial serene grass, there was only one in 1,000 years. This one and only stock is in the hands of Monarch Beilan, and he had specially refined it into the heaven-restoring yuan serene pill, gifted to sovereign as a birthday gift. You still dare to say that the medicinal pill in your hands is the heaven-restoring yuan serene pill? Aren't you afraid of making others laugh at you? Lan Ling Nua's words made the crowd burst into laughter. This young lady, she could just casually say any precious high-grade medicinal pill would do. She had to use the heaven-restoring yuan serene pill which Monarch Beilan had just gifted to Sovereign Yin to stall for time. Wasn't this clearly telling everyone? She was a liar. Chapter 2562. Amidst the laughter from the crowd, Yi Qing Luo narrowed her long and narrow eyes, but there wasn't a trace of panic on her expression. Instead, she tilted her head as she looked at Xia Ji with a slight smile and said word by word, "That's right, heaven-returning element serene grass, 1 stock every 1,000 years. But how can Sovereign Beilan be so sure that your heaven-returning element serene pill is real?" The moment she said that, the surrounding crowd burst into an uproar. This young lady actually doubted that the pill given by Sovereign Beilan was fake. How could he insist that his pills were real? This was simply unheard of. One was the sovereign of Northlan continent. The other was a young lass with unknown origins. One was a precious moonlight porcelain medicine bottle. The other was a low-grade celadone medicine bottle. No matter who it was, they would not believe that unknown young lady's low-grade celadone medicine bottle contained the real heaven-returning element serene pill. Xia Lingling laughed even more happily. "Yi Luo, you're too funny. Uncle Sovereign is the monarch of a dynasty. Would he use a fake pill to deceive Uncle Sovereign? Do you know that by slandering Uncle Sovereign, other than being a spy from another country, you will also be charged with disrespecting the Northlan royal family, insulting and slandering the monarch?" Lan Ling Nua wrapped her brocade robe tightly as her slender fingers gripped tightly onto the brocade robe with exquisite embroidery as she looked at Yin Yanxiu gently. Seeing his calm eyes staring at Yi Qing Luo without blinking, as though he was contemplating whether Yi Luo was a liar or not, she stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo's direction as she raised her head and said, "Just ask who here would believe your nonsense." Yi Luo, stop struggling. If you're really not a spy from another country, then you should leave with Sovereign Beilan with a clear conscience so that he can investigate your identity and prove your innocence. Lan Ling Nua's words made the guests nod their heads in agreement. If he really had a clear conscience, then shouldn't he prove his innocence? But there were some who questioned softly. This was obviously Sovereign Beilan targeting Yi Luo for his niece. If Yi Luo really left with Sovereign Beilan, what innocence was there to speak of? However, Sovereign Beilan was present at the scene. This little bit of doubt didn't cause any waves at all. It was suppressed by countless voices of agreement. "You're stalling for time and slandering Sovereign Beilan for using fake elixirs to deceive the sect master. Isn't it because you have a guilty conscience and want to stall for time?" Lan Ling Nua noticed that everyone's gazes were focused on her. She purposely puffed out her chest and showed off the long robe covering her body. In the next instant, A tender and affectionate smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, and she looked at Yin Yanxiu tenderly. Big brother Xiu, tell me, am I right? Yin Yanxiu frowned slightly as if he was disgusted by Lan Ling Nua calling him Big brother Xiu. He didn't even bother to look at Lan Ling Nua. He looked up at Xia Ji and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, Lady Yi is a good friend of mine and is also a guest that I personally welcomed into Qinyu clan. If there's a problem with Miss Ye's identity, I won't be able to escape the blame. I believe in Lady Ye's character, so, in order to verify Lady Ye's words, I, as the young sect master, plead the Alchemist Guild to represent Elder Wu Yao to check if Lady Ye's elixir is the heaven-recovering tranquil pill. Yin Yanxiu's words made everyone look at Yi Qing Luo with a strange gaze. Chapter 2563. The main hall was in an uproar. Xia Ji's expression was extremely gloomy. Yin Yanxiu's words. It could be said to have given him 2 resounding slaps on his face. He was overflowing with evil intentions as he stared unblinkingly at the celadone bottle in Yi Qing Luo's hands. He naturally didn't believe that the medicinal pill in Yi Qing Luo's hands was the real heaven-recovering serene pill. He was certain that the medicinal pill which he had presented was the real heaven-recovering serene pill. Right from the start, Xia Ji had no intention to present such a high-grade medicinal pill like the heaven-recovering serene pill. If it wasn't for Xia Lingling for the royal family's face, he would not possibly take out the heaven-recovering serene pill. That slut, how dare she doubt that his medicinal pill was fake? Yin Yanxiu, that fellow, also stood on that slut's side, making him lose face in front of everyone? Xia Ji sneered as his gaze slowly shifted onto Yin Yanxiu. Young sect master is really awe-inspiring. Previously I heard that young sect master had personally chased my little region princess out of Qinyu sect. I thought it was because little region princess was young and insensible, spouting nonsense in front of me. Now it seems that young sect master is extremely dissatisfied with the North Wave's royal family. Chase little region princess out of Qinyu sect? There were quite a number of VIPs present and they didn't know what had happened at the main residence's entrance. Hearing Xia Ji's words, the gazes which they shot towards Yin Yanxiu and Yi Luo became even more ambiguous. From the start to the end, young sect master seemed to have been standing on the young lady's side, speaking up for her, even going against the royal family. If it was said that young sect master had no interest in that young lady, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. The surrounding people were pointing fingers at Yin Yanxiu, but he didn't bother about it. But Yi Qing Luo, who was a married woman, expressed, although Xian wasn't by her side. Scandals or whatever, absolutely must not be spread. Xian, that vinegar jar. Even if it was completely unrelated vinegar. He could also drink till he flew up. Before Yin Yanxiu opened his mouth, Yi Qing Luo had already taken a few steps forward. A pair of long and narrow eyes stared at Xia Ji with a faint smile. She said with a smile, as for why the young sect master asked the young princess to leave the Qinyu sect, Monarch Balon just needs to ask around and you will know the cause and effect. At this point her voice turned cold and her eyes turned sharp. If you still think that it's the young sect master's fault when the time comes, then I'm sure everyone present will know the inner quality of the Northern Wave imperial family. Xia Ji's eyelids suddenly twitched. He frowned and stared at the girl in front of him. This young girl was actually facing so many pairs of eyes. In the face of his majesty as the ruler of a dynasty, he was still fearless and calm. He felt that this girl was definitely not a simple character. If they became enemies, it was not a wise move. Yi Qing Luo didn't care what Monarch Balon was thinking about. She still maintained an extremely faint smile and tossed the pill bottle in her hand. As for whether these pills are real or fake, Elder Wu Tao will check them and we will know for sure. Don't even think about it. Yi Luo, I will not let you stall for time. The pills given by the Northern Wave imperial family are absolutely not fake. Don't even think of playing any tricks. Xia Lingling opened her mouth to interrupt, with a face full of ridicule and ridicule. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she smiled and nodded her head. If you're really sure that the pills given by the Northern Wave imperial family are real, then you should accept Elder Wu Tao's investigation with a clear conscience, so that Elder Wu Tao can clear the Northern Wave imperial family's name. These words? Why did it sound so familiar? Chapter 2564. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she gave a light smile. Or could it be that you have a guilty conscience? The birthday gift given to Sovereign, is it really fake? She used this kind of calm tone, saying something that made one's heart tremble. The crowd expressed that only this young lady was able to do it without any incongruity. Yiqing Luo took a look at the surrounding guests who were watching the show, and looked at Xiaji, whose face was steely green as he suppressed his anger. She smiled even more joyously. Sovereign Northlan says that you put Qinghua sect in your eyes, but in your heart. Even the birthday gift given is fake. Tiske, I really doubt Sovereign Northland's sincerity. Investigate. Investigate. Alright, I will get the Alchemist Guild to investigate. Xiaji indeed wasn't agitated as he gritted his teeth and bellowed furiously, but, young lass, once the Alchemist Guild finds out that your medicinal pills are fake, your crime will be added with another. Slandering the royal family is a capital crime. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she lifted a lock of hair which was hanging on her shoulder, curling it on her fingertips as she smiled casually. Then what if it is confirmed that your medicinal pills are fake? How could my medicinal pills be fake? Xiaji's face was filled with anger. Yiqing Luo replied with a smile, my medicinal pills are also not fake. Xiaji's eyes turned gloomy as a vicious aura seeped out bit by bit. He clenched his fists as green veins popped out on his forehead. If my medicinal pills are fake, I will personally apologize to you in front of all the guests from the various continents. How much is your apology worth? Do you think I care about your apology? Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes without any hesitation. From the start to the end he was creating trouble and targeting her. Just casually apologizing, and he thought that this matter could be brushed off? There was no practical benefit at all. She didn't have the time to waste on him. Xiaji was so angry that he only felt a gush of heat surging up to his head. The anger in his chest seemed as though it was going to pour out in torrents. His eyes widened as his face and neck turned red, gritting his teeth, as though he couldn't wait to swallow the young lady in front of him alive. He was the dignified Sovereign Northlan. She actually despised him. There wasn't any respect towards him in her tone. Instead they were filled with disdain and contempt. What right did a lowly woman have to look down on the sovereign of the Northern Wave continent? If Monarch Bayland's pills are fake, then, give me the Imperial family's permit. I can use my identity as a member of the Imperial family to enter and leave the Northern continent. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she hadn't seen Xiaji's anger, as she continued to raise her own request. You. At this moment, Xiaji was so angry that he couldn't even speak. At this moment he deeply understood the meaning of Yiqing Luo's sentence, I don't put you in my eyes. Yi Luo. You are too presumptuous. Xia Lingling's face turned red and she slammed the table in anger. You're clearly not putting the Northern Wave Imperial family in your eyes. You want a rebel? Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes innocently with an innocent smile and a puzzled look. Don't tell me I should put you in my eyes? Many honored guests couldn't help but laugh out loud. This girl was really infuriating to death without paying for it. Every word and sentence could poison someone to death in minutes. They couldn't win against her. And they couldn't really lower their own status to take action against her. They were angry and frustrated, but had nowhere to vent it out. Tiske. Luckily the people who had a conflict with her weren't them. Let's silently observe a moment of silence for the Northern Wave Imperial family. Chapter 2565. You. Xia Lingling pointed at Yiqing Luo as her little face flushed red and twisted with anger. Yiqing Luo smiled till her eyes curved as she continued, since you keep saying that my medicinal pills are fake and insist that I'm another country's spy, don't tell me that I'm not allowed to fight for my own rights and interests? What Miss Yi said is right. Suddenly a deep voice rang from the main seat. Yin Qinghao, who had been silent all this while, looked at Yiqing Luo with a torch-like gaze. On his face, there wasn't a single trace of annoyance for the birthday banquet being disturbed. Instead, his lips curled into a faint smile. Although Miss Yi and I are just acquainted for the first time, but with this sect master's ability to read people for so many years, this sect master is willing to believe in Miss Ye's temperament. His voice was steady but also gentle. Following that, he looked towards Xiaji as he gave a gentle smile. Of course, this sect master also believes that sect master will not give me a fake birthday gift in front of everyone. Yin Qinghao's words made everyone scratch their heads in confusion. Was he intending to not offend either side? Immediately following that, Yin Qinghao continued, Sky Yuan serene grass, there's only one stalk in 1,000 years. I believe between the two of you there must be one who is fake. But the two of you, don't know that the medicinal pills which you have obtained are fake. Xiaji's face turned slightly pale as his slightly plump face was slightly moved. This point wasn't impossible. After all, a stock of one stock in 1,000 years. Who could be sure if it was real or fake? Alchemist Guild's elder Wu Tao, may I trouble you to check both of your medicinal pills in front of everyone? Yin Qinghao's voice was calm, neither arrogant nor impatient, so that both of you can rest assured and not argue over this matter. At this moment, an elderly dressed in a white robe walked out from the crowd. The elderly had a head full of white hair which was meticulously tied up with a wooden crown. His white robe was clean. But as he stood up and moved, wherever he passed by, the guests could smell a faint medicinal herb smell. This person was the Alchemist Guild's representative, Alchemist Guild's elder Wu Tao. This elder is willing to help both of you to verify the authenticity. Wu Tao cupped his hands towards Yin Qinghao. Seeing Wu Tao walking out, Yi Qingluo's eyes lit up slightly. Wasn't this person elder Wu Tao, who had been helping her during the alchemy competition in the Alchemy Alliance? He didn't expect that the Alchemy Union would send him as a representative to Yin Qinghao's birthday banquet. She thought that the representative who came to the Northern Wave continent would be the Mu family's second young master. Xiaji saw that Wu Tao had already taken the initiative to stand up and verify for them. His face was completely overcast. However, the arrow was already knocked on the bowstring and it had to be released. He took a deep breath and suppressed his anger as he stared sinisterly at Yi Qingluo. I'll cooperate with your farce, and whatever request you say, I'll agree to it. But, if it is proven that our medicinal pills are real, you will obediently follow us back to the palace and accept a thorough investigation of your identity. No problem. Yi Qingluo snapped her fingers straightforwardly as she turned her head to look at Yin Qinghao. Sovereign, and everyone present here can be a witness. I hope that Northlan monarch won't lose his credibility after losing his face. Yin Qinghao nodded and returned to his seat with his hands behind his back. He took a look at his side. Housekeeper Yin had received the moonlight porcelain bottle from Xia Lingling and had yet to leave the banquet. Now that he had received Yin Qinghao's instructions, he was preparing to carry the moonlight porcelain bottle and walk towards Wu Tao. But he heard a deep and cold voice ringing. Chapter 2566. This voice, the faces of the guests who were watching the show froze. All of them turned their gazes towards the direction of the voice in unison. In the first row of the birthday banquet, the young man, who had not said a word since he entered the birthday banquet but had a strong sense of presence, Gui Wu. It was Gui Wu who spoke. Master Gui Wu came to the birthday banquet in Yi Luo's carriage. He also sat in the same row as Yi Luo. It could be seen that the relationship between the two was not ordinary. But, since Yi Luo was targeted, Master Gui Wu did not speak to stop or speak for Yi Luo. Everyone thought that Master Gui Wu did not care about Yi Luo at all. But now, Master Gui Wu spoke. Was he going to speak for Yi Luo? Master Gui Wu pleaded for Yi Luo. Could Sovereign Bei Lan still insist on bringing Yi Luo back to the palace for a thorough investigation? Everyone looked at Gui Wu nervously and then at Xiaji, whose face was livid. Under everyone's nervous and expectant gaze, Gui Wu looked calm and emotionless. Send the moonlight porcelain bottle to Sovereign Bei Lan. Housekeeper Yin was stunned and did not understand the meaning of Gui Wu's words. Everyone was also confused and looked at Xiaji doubtfully. Was Gui Wu trying to keep the peace? Was he trying to save Yi Luo's face? However, everyone waited for a long time and Gui Wu did not say anything. Cough, cough, cough. A clear voice cleared its throat. Zhou Mo stood up lazily with Kitty Li in his arms. His long and narrow eyes curved into a demonic smile. Wu wants you to take a good look at the elixir in the bottle first. He wants you to see if the elixir in the bottle is the one he gave Sect Master Yin. Yes, yes, who knew that after Elder Wu Tao said that your elixir is fake, you would accuse me of secretly swapping your elixir? Kitty Li was surprisingly obedient in Zhou Mo's arms. She widened her beautiful eyes and nodded solemnly. Zhou Mo's eyes were full of love. He rubbed the head of the person in his arms and smiled gently. Little Kitty is right. To avoid this kind of thing from happening, we have to be careful. Xiaji's face suddenly became extremely gloomy. However, due to the relationship between Zhou Mo and Gui Wu, he could only swallow his resentment. Xiaji's face was livid as he watched Butler Yin hand the moonlight porcelain bottle to him. His hands were stiff as he took the moonlight porcelain bottle. After checking the pill inside, he stiffly stuffed it back into Butler Yin's hand. Zoemo acted as though he didn't notice Xiaji's rage points. He was still in a lazy posture. His long and narrow eyes stared at Xiaji as if he was consuming something. He said in a frivolous tone, "Sovereign Beilan, are you sure?" "I'm certain." Sovereign Beilan spat out each word through gritted teeth. Zoemo nodded in satisfaction. "You're the ruler of a dynasty, Sovereign Beilan. Don't do anything that will bring shame to the imperial family." Although the Beilan imperial family doesn't have much of a reputation to speak of right now, they still have to maintain some dignity. Xiaji was so angry that his head was overflowing with blood. He clenched his fists tightly and suppressed his anger. The sweet and fishy feeling in his chest was about to surge into his heart. The surrounding guests who were watching the show all expressed, as expected of Miss Ye's friend. His mouth was poisonous and his ability to insult people was not inferior to Miss Ye at all. Birds of a feather flocked together. The group of people didn't take the people of the Beilan imperial family seriously at all. However, they had the ghost martial artist keeping watch over them. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.